You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston, winner of 4 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Brady, head on BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the library. Barry Weiss's 60 Minutes has fired longtime correspondent Scott Pelley. His crime? Speaking up against CBS News' bowing down to Donald Trump. Will enough people care about this latest attack on the press to take a stand? Will his co-workers call or text? Then it's naturalist Sy Montgomery on an elderly elephant at the New Bedford Zoo. And GOP Senate hopeful John Deaton stops by to discuss why he's hoping to unseat Senator Markey come November.
I'm Marjorie Egan. In the second hour, it's Frontline filmmaker Mike Weiser on their latest, The War Cabinet, and national security expert Juliette Kayyem on the rise in deaths and suicides at ICE detention centers. And we'll end the show with an ode to outdoor dining and beach days, and your confrontation with seagulls. Surviving Seagull season is next. BPR live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump confirms he told Israel's prime minister that he's crazy. He used an expletive during a call this week that halted planned Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon's capital. Itai Stern reports from Tel Aviv.
Trump was asked by conservative writer Miranda Devine on her show Pod Force One about the Axios report and if he had cursed at Netanyahu and called him crazy. Trump confirmed he did and added,
I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. You know, at some point I said, Bibi, we got to stop this. We got to stop it.
Trump says despite their differences, the two leaders have worked well together, but they are increasingly at odds. Trump wants to end the war with Iran, and Netanyahu's pushed back. Iran, however, says any ceasefire deal must include Lebanon. For NPR News, I'm Itai Stern in Tel Aviv.
President Trump has tapped a new acting director of national intelligence. It's the current head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte. His current job is to regulate agencies that guarantee home loans in the U.S., but he has no apparent experience in the intelligence field. NPR's Danielle Kurtz-Laban says that could be a difficulty.
The post-9/11 law that set up the position of DNI says all nominees must have, quote, extensive national security experience. But Pulte isn't a nominee. Trump is naming him an acting director, so he won't have to go through a Senate confirmation. And remember, this really is a key position right now, with the U.S. engaged with foreign threats around the world during a war with Iran.
NPR's Danielle Kurtz-Laban reporting. Results are coming in for the mayor's race in Los Angeles. Incumbent Karen Bass has advanced to the November election. The Associated Press has not called a second candidate to advance in the race, but it appears it may be former reality TV star Spencer Pratt. Steve Futterman reports from Los Angeles.
Karen Bass, facing opposition from both the left and right, ended up getting the most votes. It's looking likely that her opponent will be Spencer Pratt. Both were talking last night as if they will be facing each other. Pratt says the voters want change.
I just believe there's a lot of Los Angeles that is so excited to hear a non-politician. I don't want to be a politician.
Bass, who's been criticized by Pratt for the way she handled last year's deadly wildfires, says L.A. has challenges but is still thriving.
Los Angeles is the creative capital of the world, where we dream and we make our dreams come true.
The office is nonpartisan, but Bass is a Democrat, Pratt a Republican, and Democrats have a huge registration advantage. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
And you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. We have an update on the meteor that crash-landed into Cape Cod Bay on Saturday. NASA now says the meteor was the size of an elephant and entered the Earth's atmosphere at roughly 42,000 miles per hour. The American Meteor Society logged 83 reports from witnesses to the fireball that was seen shortly after 2 p.m., not to mention the loud boom that came with it. It started breaking up at an altitude of 31 miles and produced a meteorite that was about 5 feet in diameter, which is what fell into Cape Cod Bay. But that original meteor, the size of an elephant. It's Pride Flag Raising Day at Massachusetts State House. Governor Maura Healey is on hand right now for the event being hosted by the LGBTQ+ Legislative Caucus. And the Greater Worcester Community Foundation celebrating its 50th anniversary with a one-time $2 million funding package aimed at tackling some of Worcester County's most pressing challenges. The funding package announced this week represents a 50% increase in the foundation's discretionary grant-making for the year. The Worcester Guardian reports the largest of the grants supports efforts focused on housing, child care, food access, and services for immigrants and families with newborns. In sports, the Red Sox-Orioles play Game 2 of their three-game series at friendly Fenway tonight. The Sox have the worst homestand record in Major League Baseball with just 9 Ted Williams wins, and they have 20 losses. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, supporting books, radio, podcasts, film, television, theater, and more to bridge science and the humanities. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. And we are pretty sure, barring some unforeseen last-minute screw-up, that we're going to be talking with Jill Biden tomorrow about her new book about her time as First Lady of the United States and her life with Joe Biden, basically. June 23rd, we're going to be joined between 11 and noon by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth. Good morning, Jim.
And in about 30 minutes, we'll be joined by the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, running against either Markey or Moulton, John Deaton. We're starting the show today with a stunning move. CBS Barry Weiss's new guy in charge of 60 Minutes has fired veteran correspondent Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes, just the latest in a series of firings of the nation's top-rated news program. The new owner of our, is a quote, "The new owner of our network is casting this legend aside, apparently to curry a moment of favor with the Trump administration." That's a statement from Scott Pelley. The waste is heartbreaking. We're opening the lines at 877-301-8978. Call or text to get your reaction to these continued shakeups at CBS News and 60 Minutes. Remember, they shut down 100-year-old CBS News Radio about 2 weeks ago. The program's viewership was up last year by a lot, 9%. As I said, it's the most successful news magazine for decades on television. And Weiss's decision to replace the entire senior leadership team is raising alarm bells for news watchers. Does that include you? Will enough people care about this take a stand? For example, what they did when Kimmel was suspended. They contacted sponsors, boycotted sponsors, and most importantly to me, will the co-workers of Sharon Alfonsi and Celia Vega and Anderson Cooper and Scott Pelley stand up with them and just walk off their jobs? Legacy News, Barry Weiss, 60 Minutes and You. The number's 877-301-8970. Could you describe what Pelley did that led to this firing, Marjorie?
Yeah, I think he might have been on thin ice to begin with, but when he had the meeting with the new boss, he talked about Barry Weiss, said, quote, "She is murdering 60 Minutes. She does not love this place. She was brought in to kill it, and she's been doing exactly that." Then he went on to say of Weiss, "She has no qualifications for her job." And then she was talking to the new boss. Is it Bilton? How do you say his name?
Bilton, yeah, I think
Bilton.
so.
He says to the new boss right to his face, "And you have slender qualifications for this job." The changes that Weiss made at the Evening News have been catastrophic, so why should we expect that any of this is going to be any better? And then he kept pressing Bilton on his qualifications, why they didn't renew the contract of Sharon Alfonsi, why they got rid of Cecilia Vega, and why he accepted a position at a program knowing you will never be welcome here. That was the new boss, Mr. Bilton. What's incredible about this is that, as many of these stories have pointed out, 60 Minutes, television is struggling, as everybody knows, but 60 Minutes was doing very, very well. And it just does seem odd that, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Well, it's broke because Donald Trump thinks it's broke. That's why they're fixing it. By the way, part of the statement also that I didn't read from Scott Pelley after this firing, this is a quote, "For my part, new management," meeting at 60 Minutes, "has instructed me," this is very heavy, "to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. I've been told to include assertions that are unverified. To date, in every case, I've managed to ignore these instructions or refuse them." And listen to this. Recently, politicians have been invited to choose correspondents for interviews on the broadcast, meaning they can say, according to Scott Pelley, who they want to interview them among the 60%. Is that the right thing?
Among the what?
Among the remaining correspondents at 60 Minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. The number is 877-301-8970. The big question for me, I've said this to you a million times in other settings, there are a bunch of very prominent, well, most prominent is Leslie Stahl, who is spectacular, who's been there almost forever. Leslie Stahl, Bill Whitaker, John Wertheim, and Nora O'Donnell. They're the high-profile people. The remaining correspondents, as we said, Anderson Cooper left. He didn't criticize management. Vega did. Alfonsi stood up to them after that story about that super mega prison in El Salvador, and that they wanted, they held that. Barry Weiss held that at the last minute because she wanted more of the, quote, administration's perspective, meaning the Trump administration. What are these people going to do? Are they, the conventional wisdom with which I totally disagree is we have to stay here and defend the fort and do the right thing. How many people in the age of Trump have said they're going to do that? And how many of them have succeeded at doing what they intended to do? Take a damn stand. Stand with your colleagues who've been completely screwed by Weiss since she took over. And show some spine.
The thing that's particularly scary about this is that the same Ellison family thereafter, CNN, and when you talk to people, I just talked to one this morning who talked about, I was saying at this point, what are people in favor of Trump about? What do they think he's done that's been great? And of course, that person said, as many other people said, that they don't know about any of those things because they're watching Fox News, and so they don't hear about the terrible things that Trump has done. They may know about the economy, but they may not know the other things. And I think that's what's really scary that CNN could be next, and then
explain why that people may not know the Ellison connection. Explain why.
Well, because they're very close with Trump, and
that Ellison is about to purchase Paramount, which includes CNN.
Right.
He obviously is the CBS News guy, so the fear is there's going to be the same sort of behavior at CNN. Sean in West Roxbury says, text, "I'm boycotting CBS. I hope Pelley and colleagues launch a new unbiased 60 Minutes." That's what I said to you at the staff meeting this morning. If all these people quit in solidarity with Pelley and Vega and, Cooper to a degree, and Alfonsi, they could market themselves to another outlet, immediately, have 60 Minutes go somewhere else under a different name.
YouTube is massive, and it's particularly massive. 60 Minutes has a very old audience. Television in general has a very old audience, so they could go someplace else. I don't know if they will. I think Pelley's been there, 37 years? Leslie Stahl is 84 years old. I think that maybe they'll just say, I'll go and hang out at the beach and play with my grandchildren.
I'm not talking about them. They've taken their stand. What do the people who are still there do when Pelley has been courageous? Some may say cross the line.
They're going to have to decide.
Alfonsi's been courageous. Vega's been courageous. What do they do? Just duck their heads down?
I think they decide where their red line is, if they want to quit now or if they're going to wait till somebody tells them to inject something untrue into a story. I used to work for a Murdoch paper. That happened to me, where they told me to do something.
What?
I told you this a million times.
I know, but unfortunately, most people listening to the show were not in the discussion
I used to be a news reporter at the Boston Herald, and Rupert Murdoch came in with all these British guys and took over the place and ran these crazy headlines. And the advertisers at Filene's and Macy's, which were then around there, were saying, "What is going on here?" It turned into a British tabloid. But anyway, there's this tragedy where a news helicopter went down, and the pilot was killed, and the broadcaster was killed. And they were saying that they wanted me to say that he courageously lost his own life to save the first graders who are out in the playground at this school. They came over and told me I should write that, and I said, well, nobody told me that, and the police didn't say that, and the fire people didn't say that, and they wanted me to put that in the story. So that's the kind of thing.
Did you?
No, I
knew
didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't. But they didn't do anything to me, thank goodness. I quit shortly thereafter, but they didn't do anything to me. But that's the sort of stuff they're talking about is they want to spin the stories away from the truth. And that's what happened with the original story about El Salvador. It was really tough on Trump, really tough on sending people who may not have committed crimes to this hellhole in El Salvador, and that made the president look very bad. And since that time, 60 Minutes had produced a lot of stories to make the president look really bad. And remember in the Norah O'Donnell interview that he did, and the stuff where he seemed like he was really wacky, going off the rest, saying all these really weird things. They did not put that on the air. That was like something you had to go look for in the 60 Minutes online.
I remember very well. 877-301-8970. What do you make of this purging of 60 Minutes, and what do you plan to do about it if you're a 60 Minutes viewer, and what should the coworkers of those who have been canned or their contract not renewed because they spoke up, what should they be doing? By the way, this is a big test case in my estimation. It's not just about 60 Minutes. We know that CBS wrote a check. We know that ABC wrote a check after George Stephanopoulos made a minor mistake in a lawsuit that Trump would not have won. They still wrote a $16 million check. And other media have capitulated. Here you have individual high-profile correspondents deciding they're going to stand up and speak for the truth. They've paid a price, and what are we going to do about it is the question.
I mean, this is another authoritarian tactic, as we know. What happens in authoritarian countries is the authoritarian leaders go after the free press, and they propagandize. You know, we see that obviously with Putin all the time. People used to talk about it with Maduro, who's no longer there, as we know, although his regime is still there. I mean, it's a tried and true tactic, and that's what Trump is trying to do. And as I said before, what's scary about this, and you probably know this in your own family or with friends who watch Fox News and go on, listen to right-wing podcasts and are in that algorithm where they get fed a lot of the right-wing stuff, they're not hearing the truth. And that's very dangerous because obviously if someone who's leading the country is lied about and presented as being one thing when he's something else, it's really dangerous.
Let's go to Tommy in Fall River. You're first. Thanks for your call, Tommy. Welcome.
Hi, I'm just, first of all, thanks. I've been listening to you guys for years.
Thank you.
And I'm going to object to say that 60 Minutes is not a program for old people. When I came here in 1967, as a child, I watched it about 8 years old. I remember footage of the Vietnam War and just some amazing coverage that just shocked, and I learned a lot from. So my point is this. I'm hoping that maybe you guys can keep track of Cecilia Vega, Sharon Alfonsi, Scott Pelley, Anderson Cooper, and where they go after this, so that I can continue to listen to them and not worry about what they're doing over there, because that's the only choice we really have.
Well, Tommy, don't go away. We will do that, and obviously we know where Anderson Cooper is. He's still at CNN. But I would say you can do more. Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air, most people think, because so many people who opposed what was done to him by his bosses wrote to sponsors and said, we're not going to buy your products or services anymore. And lo and behold, how long was he off? A week, 2 weeks, whatever he was. He was like back on the air. So that's something you can do, and I hope you do. I hope you do. Tommy, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. I don't know if you saw the Borowitz report, our favorite satire.
I missed him today. What did he say?
Barry Weiss exits CBS to run North Korean state media. Embattled CBS News chief Barry Weiss abruptly left the network on Wednesday to accept a new role as general manager of North Korea's state-run media. Quote, I was a big fan of her work at CBS, said Kim Jong-un. I spent years trying to purge all the news from our media, and she pulled it off in just a matter of months. And he goes on from there.
You know where she's coming from. I mean, this kind of said it all to me. She was giving a speech somewhere in some conservative group, and she gets up. She's a gay woman, and she get up and she said to this conservative crowd, and she's got kids too.
I know.
She said, I'm paraphrasing. She said something like, I know that you all think I shouldn't be married, or you denigrate, my marriage because I'm a gay woman, but who cares? We're all for low taxes. And I thought, that's great. you know, you denigrate your spouse, you denigrate your children, you denigrate the union that you're
Denigrate
in with
yourself.
the person, you denigrate yourself, but who cares because we're all for low taxes. So I thought that said a lot about her kind of morals, I guess.
Let's go to Kristen. You're in Shrewsbury. You're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you much for the call. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for calling. What's going on?
I am truly disgusted with what's happening with 60 Minutes, of course. And I'm a little concerned that the media still seems to be covering Trump as if he's a normal politician.
Amen, Kristen.
Yeah.
Amen.
When he's if he's insulting a reporter, somebody should say, that's not right. Why are you doing that? And maybe stop playing his ridiculous whatever he's saying. Stop playing that on the news and just leave him alone.
Well, Kristen, can I, first of all, I agree with everything you said. First, that reporters continue to treat him. Read Margaret Sullivan, by the way.
She's great.
Who's with us occasionally.
She's on Substack.
She is exactly where you are, and a woman who's had a career in the media. One, they treat him like he's normal, which he is not. And two, the second point you mentioned, which is my major peeve, is when Trump trashes almost always a woman reporter, often a woman reporter of color, and her colleagues sit there like potted plants or just ask the next question like nothing happened, showing no solidarity with the person who's just been called ugly or stupid or whatever he does. It's appalling. And I'm with you. You nailed it, and I hope people take what you said to heart. Kristen, thanks for the call.
And you know, this really only underscores the problem with these monopoly ownership and these corporate ownership of all these different media companies. I mean, I'm a big fan of the New York Times. My daughter used to work there. She's not there anymore. She's CNN. Oh, God. But anyway, you know, the New York Times is family owned. They don't have this pressure that the other places do. I mean, you could say the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos. Why should they have that pressure? He's one of the richest men in the world, but he's sucking up to Donald Trump because of his other things. But the New York Times is just putting out a newspaper, and that's why they have managed to do such great reporting, you know, without fear or favor.
Well, add one more thing. Not only putting out a terrific newspaper, the young Sulzberger in the Sulzberger family last week at a speech somewhere, I forget what it was, eviscerated CBS News for their capitulation.
Yeah.
You don't hear that much, mainstream to mainstream. And that took a lot of courage, and I think everything he said was correct.
And interestingly, the other newspaper that is going on without fear or favor, even though they're kind of wacky on their op-ed page, is the Rupert Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal, which is obviously such a dichotomy from what goes on Fox News. Michael in Watertown, thank you for calling.
Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Yes, I was wondering if Marjorie had heard a story that when Rupert Murdoch had ruined the New York Post, he was trying to get high-end department stores to advertise in it again, and he told them how many millions of readers he had every day, and one of the store owners supposedly shot back with, "But Rupert, your readers are our shoplifters."
That's a good one.
Yeah, although, you know, I would argue a little bit with you about the New York Post, because the New York Post has done a lot of wacky things, but I think everybody kind of knew the New York Post was the wacky paper, and I think you'd see a lot of people on the subway in New York. They'd be reading the Wall Street Journal on the way downtown to Wall Street and reading the New York Post on the way back home, because they knew...
I was one of them. I wasn't the Wall Street Journal. It was the New York Times.
They did it in a very kind of clever, like British tabloidian kind of way. You know what I mean, Michael?
The New York Post used to be a very sober left-wing paper, in fact, and they would serialize good and interesting books in the middle of it. And after Murdoch took over, the first thing was that the ink started to come off on our hands.
Hey, Michael, thanks for your call.
The New York Daily News was a great tabloid, too, much more linked to reality than the New York Post.
Didn't your former boss at the Herald end up running the Daily News? What was his name?
Kevin Convey.
He
ran the whole Daily News, and I went down to visit him at the Daily News, and it was like a football-sized newsroom down there. The paper was so huge in those days.
So here's an anonymous texter. Can PBS or NPR pick this up, meaning the show. Maybe call it 59 minutes. Leslie Stoll is amazing, as are Alfonso, Cooper, Pelley, and their colleagues. Well, I think it's a brilliant idea. And don't you agree that if they all ended up leaving the show, producers, staff, other staff, and the remaining correspondents, they'd get picked up by somebody in a minute?
Yeah, no, I think that they're very, very hireable, obviously. I think the question is how successful is this whole effort to turn the media into a Trump spokesperson kind of media going to be?
What do you mean going to be? It is wildly successful.
Well, right now we have CNN, that's fact-based, and MSNBC, obviously they love the Democrats and MSNBC, but we have CNN, and that's the lone one we have left, and I'm very worried about it.
And keep in mind, you said this before, but if people have not been reading the editorial page of the Washington Post since Bezos decided that we don't cover this broad spectrum of things, we only do X and Y, it is a totally different kind of newspaper. Jesse in Cambridge, hey, welcome.
Hello, good morning.
And to you.
Boy, I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, it's a horrible connection, but keep talking.
Okay, let me just walk over to a different place. So on the broader perspective, I've been concerned for a long time by the abuse of language. Like going back to when the Affordable Care Act was being called Obamacare, I thought, oh hell, it's going to be political instead of to benefit people. Terms like the fake news being repeated, the actual fake news is protected by the guy who calls the real news the fake news.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Or the deep state or activist judges. It's like Orwellian, the way the real terms are turned upside down, then repeated and repeated and repeated until his followers believe that that's the truth.
Well, again, that's the other, authoritarian,
Easy for you to say.
authoritarian playbook where you repeat the lie over and over and over again until people believe it. That's why this is so dangerous, and that's why I'm so worried about 60 Minutes, because it was appointment listing for a lot of people. I said it was an older audience. I mean to say that everybody that listens to it is older, but you can tell by the commercials.
The trend's older. I mean, but here's a guy who spoke to that. I don't know if it's a guy, a person, anonymous texter. Guys, I understand you respect these journalists. No one under 50 has watched 60 Minutes or generally trusted corporate media for our entire lives. And as Margarita said, this is totally untrue. It has a huge audience. It does trend older. And by the way, anonymous texter, I assume you know what's the most reliable voting group in America? Those very same older viewers.
Well, the other thing is
of shows like 60 Minutes.
The other thing is that what they break on 60 Minutes gets covered elsewhere.
Yeah, it does.
Things that people are said. So you may not tune in on Sunday nights. You may not tape it. You could certainly see it on YouTube if you wanted to.
Hey, we only have 30 seconds left. If you were one of the remaining correspondents after those four people are gone, what would you do?
I don't know. I'd have to look at my mortgage situation.
No, you
and
wouldn't.
Figure out.
No, you wouldn't. I know you're being funny. No, you wouldn't.
Can I afford the kid?
You'd stay.
Well, listen. I think I hope I would have the courage to quit, but I have a lot of empathy for people who have a family to feed.
You think Leslie Stoll, Bill Whitaker, John Wertheim,
and
Norah
O'Donnell
they
can afford
have to worry about
quit.
feeding their family?
That's the difference for me. Those who can afford it, great. If you can't afford it, I understand it. Anyway, coming up after this quick break, naturalist and author Sy Montgomery zooms in to save our sanity with a dispatch from the non-human animal world. We're going to talk about an elderly elephant down in Bedford at the Buttonwood Park Zoo. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR, GBH, and NAPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Before Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts was already fighting the crown over smallpox.
Would you rather have a risk of 1.5% or 9% fatality?
tensions rose as colonists discovered the king's governor was concealing cases.
John Adams would have been very aware of these records. I mean, he sees the benefit for public health.
I'm Jennifer Moore. You can find the rest of that story online as part of our series From Colony to Commonwealth at gbhnews.org.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union, believing the right home starts with the right support. More at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 699225. And Standish Village in Dorchester's Lower Mills, providing assisted living residents with programs designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. Learn more at standishvillage.com/programs.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Jill Biden is scheduled to visit us tomorrow. She has obviously written a memoir. We will talk to her about that. On Friday, the auditor, state auditor, Diana DiZoglio, will be with us at the library, talk about the state of question 1, meaning auditing the legislature, as 72% of the people voted for a couple of years ago. On June 23rd, 11 to noon, Attorney General Campbell takes our questions and yours. We're joined now on Zoom by naturalist and author Sy Montgomery. Her latest book is The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. Hi, Sy Montgomery. Long time, too long. Welcome.
I know, I've missed you all.
And you as well. Good to see you.
So, Sy Montgomery, when I heard the word octopus, of course, I immediately thought of you, author of Soul of the Octopus. Tell us about this new octopus discovery.
Oh, yeah, this is so cool. This guy, well, what octopus is not adorable, right? But this guy really looks like a plushy toy. He's like the size of a golf ball. Would fit right in.
There he is.
He's bright blue. I know, he's adorable.
Yeah.
And his underside is a deep purple. And he's in this bizarre place. He's really, really deep. I think it's 5,900 feet beneath the surface off one of the Galapagos Islands. And he was just discovered. They found him in 2015, but now they know he is definitely a brand new species. They don't even have a common name for him yet, but he's really unusual in a lot of other ways. Most octopuses, as you probably know, have on their arms 2 rows of suckers.
Yeah.
So Octavia and Athena and Cully, they all had 200 suckers on each arm. This guy only has 1 row of suckers on each arm, which is very, very strange. And they wonder, like, why is he this weird color? Blue is one of the strangest colors, rarest colors in nature. And they think...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, when you think of it, blue, you've got the sky. Of course, that's kind of big. But there's not that much blue in nature. And it's very valued to the extent that bowerbirds in Australia, they will gather blue things to attract female mates. And they'll, like, make arrangements of blue things. So blue is rare and therefore valued. But why would you also have purple undersides? And they think that at that depth, this octopus is hunting prey that might emit light. And the prey item might emit light in an effort to get another predator to come and eat their predator.
Oh.
So maybe this guy has this dark underweb to stifle that light. So that's a really interesting thought.
Sy Montgomery, the most interesting part of this story, other than this cute little octopus deal, this is a CNN story. According to the National, I assumed this is a typo, but then I confirmed it elsewhere. According to the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, 0.001%, I think that's 1,000th of 1% of the seafloor of this planet,
isn't it great?
Has been seen. I mean, that is like the most chilling number I've ever heard.
I know. And particularly when you think that our garbage has reached all of it, but our intellect and curiosity has not.
Has our garbage reached that far down in the ocean?
Well, honestly, I think everywhere that anyone has ever looked, including our own brains and blood, And, at the top of the highest mountain peaks and the Marianas Trench, there's some evidence of plastic garbage, which is horrifying. We really know, very little about our planet, and most of our planet is, in fact, ocean.
What's the deepest you've been in your work?
Oh,
Sy?
gosh. I have not, 110 feet, that's it. But these animals are found at depths that people can't go. This was a remotely operated device that actually found the creature.
I've gotten to about 4 feet at the shallow end of the pool. That's about as deep as I've gotten, and it's about as deep as I intend to go.
So let's talk about fish. 4 stages of sleep.
Like
not
us.
Not unlike us, exactly.
Yeah, it's exactly like us, really. And it makes sense. Because human beings, we don't think of this. We think like, oh, fish are so different from us. But our bodies are really on a fish plan. Evolution basically made us out of a fish. And because sometimes it doesn't work so well, we can blame that when we get hiccups, for example. It's that evolution had to work with stuff that was already there when our ancestors climbed out of the water and onto the land. And I love the idea of fish needing to sleep, because what sleep does, among other things, is it helps consolidate memory, it helps you learn, and of course helps you rest, not just your body, but your mind.
Yeah, your head, yeah.
And fish are thinking about stuff all the time. And recently, actually, there's this really cool person who's doing research on octopuses dreaming. And they don't want to call it dreaming, even though they have rapid eye movement, just like we do REM sleep, as do fish. Fish have rapid eye movement.
And their eyes are open. They can't close their eyes.
Yeah, how do you sleep?
Right.
They don't have eyelids. How do they sleep? I don't get it. How do you sleep without an eyelid?
I think in your head, you can kind of turn things off. We see not just with our eyes, but with our brains. So you kind of don't need eyelids. Eyelids are not just for blocking out darkness, they're for keeping our eyes moist, right?
Yeah.
And their eyes are moist all the time. And it's funny because fish's glassy stare is one reason why people like to think that they're not thinking about stuff, that they don't have emotions, that they don't have memories, but they have a really glassy stare in the first stage of sleep, which is so interesting.
Hey, Sy, does any species, I never know if that's the right, is any animal, any species not sleep?
I don't know. I think, only recently have people been able to identify sleep in other creatures. It's not always when your eyes are shut. One thing that happens is you don't respond to external stimuli. It's difficult to wake a sleeping person up. And that is the case with other animals as well. But sometimes it's hard to tell that they're sleeping just by looking at them, particularly if they're dreaming and wiggling around. Octopuses, for example, will change color while they're asleep. They're dreaming, and like a dog will be wiggling its feet or wagging its tail when it's dreaming about, chasing a rabbit or seeing you. Octopuses are probably dreaming about camouflaging themselves, and so they do it.
Before we leave this topic, I want to thank an anonymous texter. I wish they had put their name on it. The anonymous texter says, it's outrageous that Trump and company want to ban underwater sea monitoring. There's so much to check and, more importantly, to discover. I didn't know about this. I just
Neither
looked.
did I.
45 minutes ago, the New York Times posted, Trump administration to dismantle ocean monitoring system. The $368 million network of instruments collecting data in both the Atlantic and Pacific have been critical to climate and ocean research. Do you know enough about this to know what the impact of this will be on research?
Well, isn't exactly what's happened with CDC and NIH? Let's not look at what's happening. Then we can pretend it isn't happening. It's horrible.
We're talking to Sy Montgomery. We'll check more into this. It's just a breaking story and share it with you later.
So, Sy, some groups that are very concerned about the fate of elephants are extremely concerned about Emily, the 61-year-old Asian elephant who's down at the Buttonwood Park Zoo in New Bedford. They want to get her out of there into an elephant sanctuary. So first, what do you think about elephants in zoos? And what do you know about this Emily, if anything?
I have not met Emily. And of course, every one of these animals is an individual. And probably, unfortunately, perhaps, the people that know her best as an individual may be the keepers at the zoo. But that said, I don't think elephants belong in zoos. It's just impossible for them to do most of their natural behaviors in a small space. Asian elephants need 15 to 800 kilometers of space in the wild. And it's impossible to give them that kind of space in a zoo. Elephants, for them, community is really, really important. And living alone in solitary confinement, as Emily has for much of her life, is dreadful for her. I was looking up her history, and she's so damaged that she actually killed a maintenance worker at one point early on. She was 3 years old when her mother was probably killed. The matriarch of her group was probably killed to take her away. She was not taken, she was at age 3. She was not taken to the Buttonwood Zoo first, but another zoo. She has been alone for a very long period. She was with one other elephant for a very long period. And you contrast that with the lives of wild elephants or animals at sanctuaries like the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee. And that sanctuary I know of, and they have fantastic results with elephants. They recently got a lovely elephant named Deli, who was 59 years old, which is towards the end of an elephant's natural life, expected to live only 6 more months. She was on hospice care. She lived 6 years when she moved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, go ahead,
a Globe piece by Stan Grossfeld talked about the Buttonwood Park Zoo getting the, quote, Hall of Shame Award by this elephant group in defense of animals in 2016 for refusing to retire 2 tragically incompatible Asian elephants, Ruth and Emily, to sanctuary. This is what the people that gave the Hall of Shame Award said, because apparently they didn't get along, the 2 previous elephants. One of them is no longer there. The other one, that one has died. The director of the zoo says that they're in compliance with all these USDA regulations and they're accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. But I don't know you said they shouldn't be in zoos at all.
To begin with, right.
And so does it even matter that they've got these compliance, and are the defense of animal people right for, they wanted these elephants to be sent to sanctuary, and they obviously, Emily is still there.
Yeah, and I looked up Ruth. Ruth had a bad life too.
Yeah.
And she got horrible frostbite. One day a keeper failed to secure the barn and she wandered out. She made a bad choice, wandered out, snowstorm.
Nearly froze to death.
Frostbite.
Yeah.
And part of her tail, 10 inches of her tail had to be amputated. That said, though, she did die at age 66, which is an old age. And there was a back and forth between the zoo and the folks that feel she should be out of there. And the zoo did point out that Ruth had gotten excellent medical care. There was a reason that she couldn't be on high-dose antibiotics, this, that, and the other thing. But without knowing Emily, I would have to say that the sanctuary sounds like a great place for her.
So she's not too old to be transferred to the sanctuary for the rest of her life.
I don't think
she should
so.
be.
It wasn't for Delhi.
So
and 38 zoos have already sent their elephants to this.
Can I broaden this for a second? I should know the answer to this. I'm embarrassed considering how long we know you and how well we know you. You said elephants shouldn't be in zoos. Which animals should be in zoos, or which animals is it okay for them to be in zoos? Any?
Well, we have messed up the wild so badly that, of course, if you can be a wild animal with a good territory and poachers aren't going to be killing you and you have water and you have prey and or grass or whatever it is that you need to get, that's awesome. But there's so many places where no animal is safe. So second prize is to be in captivity. Last week, I was down at the Turtle Survival Alliance's Turtle Survival Center, where they have 800 of the world's rarest turtles. Some of them no longer exist in the wild, and they're being bred there to reintroduce one day to the wild when it's safe. But right now, for a number of species, there is no place safe in the wild where you can reintroduce.
Just one last elephant question, since this isn't New Bedford, Buttonwood Park Zoo. People are upset about this. Is there any way for them to protest? Do they notify the zoo? Do they notify the mayor, John Mitchell? Do they animal rights groups?
All of those things. They're saying contact John Mitchell, reach out to City Council President Ryan Herrera, send comments to the Buttonwood Zoo Zoological Society. Those are three things that you can do. And I do want to say, though, that I would bet money that the keepers who actually know Emily really do love her very much.
They say that in the story. The zookeeper does say that. Miss Shara Raposa says that she and the elephant are like almost like a dog and its owner. She loves the elephant loves her. Emily squeaks when she sees her, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Sy, even though we haven't been able to connect with you lately, a lot of your friends in Hancock call in, so we have like sort of a secondary connection. So talk to us soon, okay?
You bet. Thanks
Sy,
so
it's
much.
great to see you. Be well.
Thank you very much, Sy Montgomery. We're speaking with Sy Montgomery, naturalist and author. Her latest book is The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle, and of course she wrote The Great Soul of an Octopus. She's an octopus expert. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk with Senate hopeful John Deaton. He joins to discuss his campaign as a Republican to unseat Democrat Ed Markey. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, Bob Odenkirk built a career playing men with more going on beneath the surface than they first let on. In the new film Normal, he stars in a story that pairs deadpan humor with sudden violence and turns the idea of the average man into something much stranger and more dangerous. Odenkirk joins us with director Derek Kolstad to talk about their new film and why Normal is anything but. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the University of Massachusetts Amherst. UMass, the state's flagship public research university, empowers students to be the future in the pursuit of progress for Massachusetts and beyond. More at umass.edu. And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village, now playing Nat Zigri's Mozart to Pop Chart, a theatrical concert exploring and exploding musical traditions. Tickets for Mozart to Pop Chart at capeplayhouse.com.
Welcome back to BPR, GBH, and NEPM. Jim Browder, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're quite certain Dr. Jill Biden, former First Lady, is going to join us tomorrow to talk about her new memoir. We're joined now live at the library desk by Senate hopeful John Deaton. John's running unopposed in the Republican primary to then go in November to face either incumbent Senator Ed Markey or his Democratic challenger, Congressman Seth Moulton. We'll obviously speak to both of them during the summer as well. This is John Deaton's second run for the Senate. We met him the first time. He challenged Senator Elizabeth Warren in 2024. John Deaton, it's great to see you again. Welcome back.
It is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for coming in. So as Jim said, you ran once before, but people may not be that familiar with you. So why don't you tell everybody, reintroduce yourself, John.
Well, I am a nonpartisan common sense really, I'm a Republican because my opponent is a Democrat, and we live in a two-party system. But I have a unique background. I come from extreme poverty, single mother on welfare and food stamps. Very challenging background. I was raped for a period of 2 years between the ages of 9 and 11. My best friend Derek died in my arms by a drive-by shooting at 17. My first day of high school, I had a gun shoved in my mouth, and I was a high school dropout like every single person in my family before me. And I remember it like it was yesterday. My mother caught me crying, devastated. And she said, "Why are you so upset?" And I said, "Mom, I want to go to college. I got to graduate high school." And she said, "Well, just do what your brother did. Work 3 years. When you're 17, I'll sign the papers and you join the military." And I said, "Mom, I don't want to do that." And let me tell you what poverty does. My mother's my hero, my absolute hero. And she looked at me, she put her arms around me, and she said, "I'm sorry, son, but college isn't for people like us." That's what poverty had done to my mother, stripped her of her self-esteem, and that we were some subclass humans because we lived where we lived and we were on welfare and food stamps. And I made it a point that I was going to break that cycle, and I got a job and worked my way through high school, a private Catholic high school, and then law school, all college, and then law school here in Boston at New England School of Law. Joined the Marines for 7 years, and for 25 years, I've been representing working families against multi-billion-dollar corporations, insurance companies across the Commonwealth. And I want to take that fighting spirit for regular people to the Senate.
You know, when we met you a couple of years ago, we read your memoir. What was it called? Like, I Was a Mess? Or what was it? What was the name of the book?
It was called Food Stamp Warrior.
Food Stamp Warrior.
Food Stamp Warrior. That's
People
a
should
great
read
title.
It. You lost to Elizabeth Warren by 20 points. Why are you giving this another go?
19.6.
Excuse me. Thank you. Why are you doing it again?
Listen, I'm doing it again. I was in a contested primary, and as you know, I've had 3 opportunities to vote for President Trump. I didn't vote for him one time. And I was running in a contested primary with President Trump at the top of the ticket, and I spent all my time trying to convince Republicans or conservatives or independents who lean to the right that they should vote for me. And so I won the primary, but I didn't have enough time. I had 6 weeks from the primary to the early voting, and I was the first Republican to get over 40% in many years, and I outperformed President Trump by 140,000 votes. And so it was momentum. We call that momentum.
You are unopposed. You were anointed or nominated essentially by the Republican State Committee. You gave $350,000 to the Republican State Committee to help extinguish debts. Was there a quid pro quo? Did they say to you, "You'll be our nominee if you give us $350 million"?
No, I secured. Let me tell you what I did. I went around to Republicans on the State Committee who blanked me because I didn't support Trump, so they wouldn't support me. And I sat with them and I said, "Listen, we have to get a seat at the table." And I got their endorsement before that happened. But the reason I paid off their debt was because one-party rule is not working. We have to have balance. And someone like me who's nonpartisan, obviously I don't have loyalty to a person or a party or a partisan agenda. I just want to help working people like I have for 30 years.
You know, can I just ask one follow-up to the Trump thing? In my opinion, I assume you agree based on what you said, the greatest obstacle to a Republican being elected statewide in this state is you got to disassociate yourself from Trump. I mean, I'm not saying you do. One does. That's a tough hurdle. You're saying you didn't vote for him 3 times, but if you're elected, you'll be in the Republican caucus. The Republican caucus is run by a guy, John Thune, who, with the exception of last week when a few Republicans actually stood up to Trump on this $1.8 billion slush fund thing to pay off the rioters who beat up cops, they decide everything. They decide what is voted on. They are sycophantic when it comes to Trump. Why shouldn't a voter in Massachusetts, even if they like what you stand for, worry that you'll be a vote to ensure that if they have enough other senators, that the Republicans continue to bow at the knee of Donald Trump?
It's a great question, but I want people to understand. I went to Republican town committee meetings across this state. I got called names, much worse than Rhino, much worse than Democrat in disguise. I got called traitor. I got called Benedict Arnold. I got more than booed and heckled, and I never bent the knee. That person...
No, but your boss, not your boss, your leader, if you're in the Republican caucus, will continue to bend the knee. Why should that not scare away voters come November?
Because I'm fiercely independent. That guy who's never bent the knee is not going to go to Washington and fold. And what it does is it gives us a voice in the Senate. Listen, we need someone who will go there. $28 billion comes from federal funds. 1/3 of our state budget is from federal funds. We need a senator who will say, I need that to come back to Massachusetts. I got 2 bridges that are functionally obsolete on the Cape. We need infrastructure. The low-income housing credit is the #1 driver of housing we need in the country. We need someone in Washington to say, hey, you want my vote? What's Massachusetts going to get? And I'll do it whether it's President Gavin Newsom or AOC or J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. If you have one test for everyone out there, if you have one test, it shouldn't matter who the president is. Is it good for Massachusetts and America? It is, I support it. It isn't, I don't support it. It's simple, but that kind of simplicity and lack of loyalty to a party or an agenda is what separates me from Markey and Moten.
We're talking to John Deaton, Republican for U.S. Senate.
You know, you mentioned growing up on food stamps with in poverty with a single mom. The president's Big Beautiful Bill did a number on Medicaid, food stamps, et cetera. Would you have supported his Big Beautiful Bill?
The Big Beautiful Bill, as it got passed, no. But what I'd have done in the United States Senate, I'd have done what Lisa Murkowski did in Alaska. I'd said, what's Massachusetts getting? You want my vote, President Trump? What is Massachusetts going to get? I need housing, I need health care credits, I need tax credits for nuclear energy, which we need in this state that others refuse. And I could have used that as a bargaining chip to get back our dollars. What everyone needs to understand, Massachusetts is #1 in the country per capita for federal taxes. We pay $22,000 per year per resident in Massachusetts, the highest in the country. We're one of 13 states who doesn't get enough back. We've got to have that fighter in Washington to fight. And I'm sorry, Senator Markey doesn't do it, and Seth Moten doesn't do it. Markey's had 53 years. I was 6 years old when he got elected. And Moten's had 12 years, and they don't bring that kind of fight. It's all about Democrat versus Republican. I'm telling everyone out there, it's not about left versus right. It's about people in power fighting to stay in power versus common people.
Of course, I would be afraid, given his lying problem, that whatever he promised me was worth not the paper it was written on, or he wouldn't tell me my coat was on fire. I mean, why would you ever believe he would help Massachusetts?
Well, it would be, you don't get the vote until it's in writing.
In writing. Okay.
And ready. You don't get my vote, whether you're a Democrat, president, or Republican. You don't get my vote unless you show me that it's good for America and I'm bringing something back to the state that I represent, the state where I achieved American
By the
dream.
way, if you want to check out John's website, it's johndeatonforsenate.com. What have you done for the people of Massachusetts in the 2 years since you ran against Warren?
What I've done for them?
Yeah.
I've been fighting. For one, I paid off the debt we talked about.
Well, that's for the Republican Party.
No, it's not for the Republican Party. It's listen.
What have you done for the people of Massachusetts in the intervening 2 years?
I've done pro bono legal work for people, both at the national level, at the local level. I'm involved in a taxpayer lawsuit with 28 other taxpayers here in Massachusetts, citing a 120-year law, right, for the audit that they're doing. I donate to charity.
You're wearing, by the way, we should say, you're wearing 72%. I can't read it. Where's our audit? Meaning you obviously support the implementation of question 1. Can I ask you about 2 other ballot questions? Obviously, that was on the ballot 2 years ago. Auditor DeZoglio will be here on Friday to give us an update on where they are, and the Attorney General obviously will be here later this month as well. There's a proposal that is likely to be on the ballot that would cut the income tax 1%, roughly $5 billion. You voting for it?
I am voting for it. And, you know, if you go back to Governor Healy when she was running, she was asked, what's the #1 thing you're going to do? She said, cut taxes. Go back and look at that. That's what her answer is.
She signed a $1 billion tax cut immediately after she was sworn in.
I know. And what I'm saying is, but now she's taken the position, it may have been on this show, I'm not sure, where she said that reducing it won't help affordability. Listen, our economy is 70% consumer spending. You have to put money in the consumer's pocket. So, of course, I support putting more money in the consumer's pocket. And the audit, if we could just go back to that, sure. There is no greater example of the arrogance of one-party rule when 72% of the voters demand an audit, make it the law, and our elected leaders say, no, we're not going to do it. What that says is we only agree with you. We only support your vote if we agree with you. The first thing the legislature did, and that's why I sued them, is they paid $23,000 for a lawyer to find out how not to comply. You want to know what that's like? When you have an insurance company, the first thing they do, these multi-billion insurance companies, they think of a way not to support the claim. And that's what they're doing. Their first action was to hire a lawyer and say, how can we avoid transparency? That's the arrogance of one-party rule.
Well, wait, just one last thing on the income tax.
I was going to ask
you
income
do
tax.
it. Go ahead.
Yeah, if voters do pass the income tax rule, that means a ballot question rather. That means that obviously millions of dollars less in money. I forget what the
billions. $5 billion.
Okay, so what programs would you cut to make up for that? Because that's schools. That's Section 70. That's towns. That's services.
Yeah,
What'd you cut?
well, the first thing I wouldn't cut anything at first. The first thing I would do is have an audit of every agency. We have a U.S. attorney who's a Republican who found millions and millions in SNAP and Medicaid fraud. We have a state auditor who's a Democrat who has found millions and millions in SNAP and Medicaid fraud. And here's the thing. I've taken the position, and I will eat these words if I'm proven wrong, that I believe Massachusetts will rival California and Minnesota when it comes to fraud that's taking place in this country. 1.1 billion in SNAP errors? Come on.
You know, I'm a little cynical about because I've heard about waste, fraud, and corruption now for about 40 years, and nobody ever seems to find enough. And then the people that need it don't get what they want.
But let me tell you why it's so important to do it, and they're fighting. Why are they fighting so hard not to audit? It's not just about the taxpayers, Marjorie. I'm someone who benefited from food stamps. You understand? So every dollar that goes to fraud isn't just about the taxpayer. It's about someone who doesn't get it, who deserves it. And I believe before you cut, before you raise taxes, before you do anything, let's look at the books and see where we can find.
Well, what happens, though, you don't do that before the election. It's not going to happen. The election comes, and people followed your advice, and they vote to cut $5 billion from the budget, and there's $800 million in waste, fraud, and inefficiency. What happens to, I mean, the reality, what Marjorie said, John, you can't deny. Every candidate for every office that we've ever interviewed says first thing, eliminate waste, fraud, and inefficiency. And you're a talented guy, but no one's ever found billions and billions in the Massachusetts. But they just haven't. So what happens then?
What about the 1.1 billion in SNAP errors that has already been discovered?
In Massachusetts?
Yes. Yes.
$1.1 billion
in SNAP errors. I didn't say it's all fraud, but it's in SNAP errors.
Well, I'd like to see that. A couple of other ballot things quickly. There's also a repeal of a gun law that would prevent guns from being carried at schools and polling places and government buildings. There's an effort on the ballot, in all likelihood, to repeal that law. How would you vote on that?
I'd vote no.
You'd vote no. Keep the law as it is.
No, voting no means that.
Oh, right. So you would vote to repeal the gun law.
Yes, because the way it's done, it's about democratic process. Governor Healy wrote it in an emergency situation where it's not.
Preamble.
It's not an emergency situation. Listen, Massachusetts already has one of the restrictive gun laws in the country. That is a fact, and so we can't take away. You have to believe in the Constitution. I believe in the Second Amendment. Now, I'm not here to change Massachusetts laws, but to answer your question directly, yes, I'm going to vote no.
Well, that would change it. Last thing from me, you voting for Minogue or short sleeve in the primary for governor?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to make an endorsement soon.
Who?
When I make the endorsement, I'll do it. All right? But here's the thing that Republicans got to understand. I already made this point. When I won the primary last time by 65% with two other people on the ballot, I had $800,000 left. Elizabeth Warren had $23 million, and she wouldn't debate me in September. She waited until a third of the votes had already been cast. You can't, in a contested primary all the way to September, you just don't have enough time to take out an incumbent.
You know, you describe yourself as a social liberal and conservative.
The Boston Globe describes me as that.
So is that what you say?
30 seconds.
No,
Real quick.
The Boston Globe said I'm a reasonable alternative who is downright liberal on certain social issues.
Gay marriage, yes
I
or no?
supported gay marriage when Biden.
Pro-choice?
When Biden, 100%.
Okay. What about parents deciding if their trans children can get care when they're under 18?
I do not support. We have to draw a line at certain
So the
points.
government should decide, not mom and dad.
No, well, we decide for tattoos. We decide for drinking. We decide for many things. You have to draw certain lines in the sand.
Tattoo is a little different.
But just so you know, when Joe Biden and Barack Obama only supported civil unions, this guy supported gay marriage.
Will you come back soon, please?
Thank
Want
you.
to continue this conversation?
I would love to.
John,
Thank
we
you
really
very
appreciate
much
your
for
time.
joining us. We really,
John
yes, we
Deaton.
do.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Republican Senate candidate John Deaton. John Deaton for Senate.com. That's DEATON. We'll also speak with Senator Markey and Congressman Moulton this summer, as Jim said earlier. Okay, goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM. We're going to keep going here in Boston after this quick break. We're going to speak with Mike Weiser, writer and producer of Frontline's latest film about Donald Trump's war cabinet, examining Trump's expansion of the military. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You listen to BPR, GBH, and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you're a GBH sustainer and your credit or debit card has expired, it's time to update your information. Take just a few minutes to make sure your information is current. Go to gbh.org/update, and thank you for your support.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Direct Federal Credit Union, a Needham-based financial institution providing loans, saving solutions, and financial wellness resources for members across every stage of life. Learn more by visiting direct.com. Direct Federal, member NCUA.
And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping customers achieve their vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding them from design to completion. With showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Jim Browder and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Jill Biden, we're pretty sure, is going to be with us tomorrow, not in person, but she will be with us on Zoom, talking about her book about being First Lady and life with Joe Biden. On June 23rd from 11 to noon, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Joy Campbell, will be with us here at the library. Hello again, Jim.
And the auditor will be with us this Friday. What time is DeZoglio on? Noon, I think, right? Noon, Auditor DeZoglio. On Inauguration Day in January of 25, Donald Trump had this to say about his hopes for his second term as president.
They thought I was going to start a war. Let me tell you something. I'm going to stop World War III.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
That sound is from a terrific new film by the people at Frontline called The War Cabinet. And as you know, a year and a half after Donald Trump said that, he's vastly expanded the use of the U.S. military, striking Venezuela, months-long war in Iran, threatening to take over Cuba, Greenland, killing people on boats who were allegedly drug smugglers with absolutely no due process, continuing aid to Israel despite what's happening in Gaza. Joined down by Mike Weiser, who's writer and producer on Frontline's latest film. It's called The War Cabinet. It's a 90-minute examination of Trump's expansive use of the U.S. military, available in full at pbs.org/frontline or on Frontline's YouTube channel and the PBS app. Mike has been with our friend Michael Kirk Documentary Group for more than 20 years and has worked with Michael on countless other great films we've talked about. It's great to finally have you here, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here. So elaborate on what Jim said. What are you doing with the War Cabinet?
Well, what we set out to do was to understand how this president, you heard his promises that he made all throughout the campaign, what he said on his inauguration day, that he was going to be a president who ended wars, he was going to be a president whose greatest achievement was going to be not starting new wars. And we want to understand how in this last year we've seen this drumbeat of military actions, starting with attacks on the Houthis, outside of the Red Sea, an attack on the Iranian military program, a ramping up of violence against Venezuela, threats against Greenland, as you mentioned, and then, of course, the Iran war. And what we wanted to do was understand, how did that happen? What was different on this term? How did things change? And what we found was that the thing that really was the difference between Trump's first term and this one was the people around him.
And you profile, I wouldn't say profile, you focus on 6 people in that so-called war cabinet. Want to run down who they are quickly, and we'll talk about a couple of them? Can you do all 6 in your head? It's a big test, Mike. Go ahead.
we can run down them. I mean, I think the most prominent of them, of course, is J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who was somebody whose political rise was very much about this idea of not starting new wars. He was a veteran who, as he was running for Senate, when he was in the Senate, said we'd spent too much money in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. We needed to spend it in the United States. And so we explore the role that he plays. I think the next most prominent member of the war cabinet is Marco Rubio, who's really an experienced Washington hand, somebody who'd been on the Foreign Relations Committee, somebody who many saw as either a neocon or at least a neocon ally inside the administration, probably the most traditional Republican foreign policy person inside of the war cabinet.
And used to be the biggest supporter on the Senate of USAID till he abolished it. By the way, I love in the film the image. I think it's the meeting with Zelensky, is it not? In the Oval Office. Everybody remembers. The film describes him as what? Sinking into the couch as Vance is doing Trump's bidding. People will remember, you haven't thanked us once in this meeting. You haven't thanked the president. And then there's his chief of staff, obviously. There is Hegseth, Susie Wiles. Hegseth, who are the other two?
And there's Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, of course.
Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller.
I think the one who's maybe the most surprising that he'd be on that list, somebody who's known for how much he cares about immigration, somebody who's a deputy White House chief of staff, always involved in domestic stuff, but we found that he was an important player on some of these discussions about foreign policy.
Well, you tell a great story about how when they're deciding whether or not to go after the Houthis, and how Vance is clearly on the other side on a lot of these things. He's not keen on any of these interventions, which is keeping, I guess, to his initial positions, although he says he'll support the president. But they're all debating this back and forth, and then Stephen Miller enters the room, and what happens?
I mean, Stephen Miller really ends this conversation that had been going on. As you said, J.D. Vance was cautious about this, was saying maybe this isn't a good idea. There's sort of a debate back and forth. Pete Hegseth, not surprisingly, seems gung-ho about doing it. And then into the middle of this conversation, which was on the commercial chat program Signal, he comes on and says, I think the president has made up his mind, and we're going to be going ahead with it. And that's the last message before the strike begins. And
is it fair? I'm sorry, you continue.
I mean, we talked to people who said that was just totally remarkable. That
Stephen Miller.
That Stephen Miller would be saying that. You've got the Secretary of Defense, you've got the Vice President, you've got others, but it was Stephen Miller who came in and said that's what the president wants.
Is it fair to say that unlike Trump 1.0, and as you mentioned, I think at the beginning of the film, where there are a lot of voices who are willing to speak truth to the boss, which is obviously pretty important in a democracy, that with the exception of Vance, as Marjorie said, at least in private, being honest and true to his principles, even though he said, as Marjorie said, I will support you if you decide to do whatever you decide to do here, that it's a fairly sycophantic 5 beyond Vance? You don't use that word, but that is what comes out of this. Is that fair?
Well, I'll say this. If you look at the people who are around him now inside this administration, including J.D. Vance, they were all chosen, and the understanding was very clear to them when they came on board that this time around things were going to be different than the first time, that they were expected to support this president, they were expected not to push back too hard, they were expected to go with what he wants. They saw and believed that the advisors in the first administration, who in Washington they sometimes called the adults in the room, had thwarted the president, had stopped him from doing things that he wanted to do, and they let everybody know.
Okay, well, you know, it is so bizarre to me that you don't see Pete Hegseth in action for like 15 seconds, think there's something really wrong with this guy. As we know, his own mother said he was an extremely disturbed person before she retracted that when he was going to be up for becoming the Pentagon head. But let's play, I mean, he makes me really nervous. Here's a clip from your film highlighting his disdain for the rules of military conduct. He refers to military attorneys known as JAGs in his own book. And by the way, before we hear the sound, I did not know that his company, when he was serving in Iraq, was called the Kill Company. And some of what they did in the Kill Company was very questionable. So let's...
Whoa, you didn't finish the sentence. And he refers to JAG officers as JAG-offs.
Yeah, this is a clip.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Here it is.
JAG-offs. There are some good ones out there, but most spend more time prosecuting our troops than they do putting away bad guys.
He tells a story in his book about how one of the JAG officers spoke to his company to advise them about the rules of engagement. And the lawyer said, you can't shoot them just because they're walking with a weapon. And when the lawyer went away, Hegseth gathered his troops together and said,
I will not allow this nonsense to filter into your brains. Men, if you see an enemy who you believe is a threat, you engage and destroy the threat. That's a bull rule that's going to get people killed.
I think your portrait of him is even more frightening than what I've seen just watching him in action.
I think that a lot of people underestimated Pete Hegseth when he came into the job. He had been a former weekend anchor for Fox News. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to survive for very long, but what he had was the trust of the president. And one of the things that attracted Pete Hegseth, or that Donald Trump saw in Pete Hegseth, was these views, was that he was on Fox News making this argument that America's warriors had been constrained by lawyers, that they weren't allowed to have the lethality, is the word that he likes to use, that they should. And when Pete Hegseth came in, he made it clear things had changed. He fired the top JAGs. He sent a message that the constraints were off on the soldiers. And he had one other thing that Donald Trump really appreciated in him, and that was the ability to communicate. That was the ability to deliver a message like few others inside even this administration.
But yet he's cheered on violence against civilians, never mind against other military people. That's a little off the rails, isn't it?
I mean, time and again in the film, one of the things that you see is that in this administration and with this Secretary of Defense, the image is almost as important as what it is that you're accomplishing militarily. That part of the reason for hitting the drug boats, part of the reason for doing these strikes is the video clip, is the message that it sends, is a message of strength that the president wants to project, that Pete Hegseth wants to project. And so image is not ancillary to some of the things that Pete Hegseth is doing.
By the way, remember about the flooding the zone, the infamous Steve Bannon line. Those drug boats, as you described, there were going to be investigations. We were not by the Republicans. We're going to find out what the deal with, and of course that is faded into reverse. So we're in the middle of this Iran war that's going to end every single day, and obviously I think it's fair to say not Venezuela, not Cuba, not Greenland, not the killing of people on those boats stuck to Trump the way Iran has. And here you have Kurt Mills of the American Conservative and Vivian Salama, is that how you say her name, from the Atlantic, talking about how Netanyahu, you've heard this, but this is beautifully described, came to the White House essentially to manipulate Trump's vanity around his own legacy to get him on board vis-a-vis Iran. Here's a little bit of that.
Netanyahu's pretty canny at saying, you'll be one of the great presidents. You'll be like Reagan or Lincoln or Roosevelt if you do something substantial. No other president has been able to handle the Iran portfolio. Carter, Reagan, H.W., Clinton, Obama, W., Biden, and you can just solve it.
He said, you get the Ayatollahs out, you bring about regime change in Iran, and school books will write about you, history books will write about you.
You seem to be accepting the notion that this Netanyahu thing was a major moment, not to mention the fact, as you say, that the swiftness with which they were able to achieve their goals, even though they really didn't in Venezuela, is what emboldened Trump to decide, let's do the similar thing in Iran. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, what we track in the film over the course of a year is a number of these operations where, in some cases, he was warned they could be disastrous, striking the Iranian nuclear program. Vance and many of Vance's allies were warning publicly, this could go really bad. And when it didn't, and when he did the boat strikes, and there was criticism about it, but it blew over, and when they captured Maduro in Venezuela, all of these things contributed to this sense in Trump that he was going to be able to succeed at whatever he did. He'd had a lifetime of luck that had allowed him
you're more responsible, but you and Michael are much more responsible in your analysis of the news than I am. I'll admit that. But one of my takeaways from this, while I'm watching the film, I'm listening to this description of Netanyahu coming over to basically praise Trump into agreeing to whatever he wanted to do. That's one. And we've seen all those images when the current Prime Minister of Great Britain comes over and gives him an invitation and how Trump is beaming. We all know the moment when Obama made fun of him at the White House Press Correspondents' Dinner. There was in another Michael Kirk film that I think you worked on, as a matter of fact, that led to his deciding to run. Do you step back and there are these moments that have nothing to do with policy, nothing to do with a specific agenda, that caused him to run for president, to go to war, do you have any reaction to that kind of stuff?
One of the people we interviewed in the film was David Sanger, the New York
Yeah.
Times reporter.
Yes.
And he goes in with his colleagues to the White House to talk to the president. This is the moment about Greenland, when the president is saying he wants to take over Greenland. And David Sanger says to him, you can do what you want in Greenland. There's treaties that let you put the military in. What is it about Greenland? Why do you want it? And he says that he needs it psychologically. And there's a follow-up question. Does the country need it psychologically, or do you need it psychologically? And he says he needs it psychologically. And I think that is important to understanding his approach to these issues. It's important to understanding that argument that Netanyahu made to him, that this is your legacy. And we talked to people who said the thing that Donald Trump wants to do more than anything is to leave things changed, to have the world be different than it was when he came in. And I think you can see it in Washington as buildings are coming down and monuments are going up. And I think you can see it on the world stage.
Yeah, other commentators call it the great man theory, that he's going to turn himself into a great man by building all these monuments to himself and stuff. There was an interesting part, too. Look at Dan Kane. He's the guy that's militarily running things over in Iran. And you talk about, just briefly, but that he was concerned about going into Iran militarily. What'd you say about Dan Kane?
I mean, the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, encouraged Dan Kane to speak up because some of the concerns he was making, she felt that the president wasn't hearing. And he was not the only one inside the administration who had concerns. J.D. Vance also had concerns that he shared with the president, in particular about the political danger of going into Iran. And many of those things were shared with the president, but it seemed like he sort of brushed off of those concerns. And the other thing that was important was that everybody inside the administration, including J.D. Vance, who was probably one of the most strongest opponents of it, told the president, if you do this, we'll be there with you.
By the way, that's the voice of Mike Weiser from Frontline. The film is The War Cabinet. I'm sorry, Margaret.
In the section when you interviewed Jeffrey Goldberg, he was the Atlantic journalist that was on that Signalgate conversation that, blew the whistle that all of their advanced plans to attack the Houthis were all revealed. He called Trump one of the luckiest people on the planet. And I think it rings true because, the Maduro thing went okay. The first Iran-Israeli get-together where we supposedly obliterated the nukes, that went okay.
Except they didn't obliterate the nukes.
No, but there was the catastrophe that was predicted by doing that did not happen. And the boats, killing people on the boats, whether they were drug runners or not, that went okay. So he has been, and he's gotten away from almost every one of his court problems, and he's immune now and all that. He is incredibly lucky.
I mean, as you know, we've made films about multiple films about Donald Trump over the years and his life story, and it's a recurring theme, whether it's scandal, whether it's bankruptcies, whether it's 2 impeachments, whether it's criminal indictments and convictions. Whether it's, after his first term, everybody, including many Republicans, believing he couldn't come back, an assassination attempt, all of those things for Trump when he comes back from them, embolden him, make him feel like he's going to be able to get away with it again.
So what's he thinking now?
Go ahead.
I think that I see no sign that Donald Trump is a different person than he was before the Iran war, that he's a different person. He famously says that he's the same person he was when he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
I think that Donald Trump is Donald Trump.
Didn't we see in one of your films at 7 years old, he was delivering the newspaper in his father's limousine? Do I remember that correctly?
That's right.
That is one of my favorite moments. Mike Weiser, the film is must-see. It's terrific. Congratulations to you and Michael Kirk, and it's really good to have you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And it's another great Frontline film. Thank you, Mike. Mike Weiser is writer and producer of Frontline's The War Cabinet, which you can watch at pbs.org/Frontline, or on Frontline's YouTube station and the PBS app as well. It's great. Coming up after this quick break, Harvard national security expert Juliette Kayyem. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edward B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, well, here in New England, it's easy to take our humble, locally owned and operated ice cream stands for granted. But you see, in other parts of the country, they are just not a thing. That is what one husband and wife duo learned on their quest to find the best ice cream in the Northeast. How do you make the perfect pint of ice cream? We ask the big questions on the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org. And Blythewald Manor Gardens and Arboretum, with big, beautiful bamboo birds. 6 sculptures in the gardens, 15 to 30 feet tall, by artist duo The Mythmakers. More info on admissions at blythewald.org.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder, live at the library. Streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We expect the former First Lady Jill Biden to join us tomorrow to talk about her recent memoir. We're joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN's senior national security analyst. Hey, Juliette.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, good to see you. So the acting head of this DNI, what's that stand for?
National Intelligence Director.
Tulsi Gabbard, the one who left, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, well, we have a new one who's not confirmed, but he's appointed. A lot of people are very nervous about this guy.
They
What's
should
the deal?
be. So he was the head of this sort of housing and mortgage office. So his background is in business. And as we know, he's used that position as an opportunity to basically look at the mortgages and the tax implications of various mortgages of people that Trump despises because they criticize them. That includes
Letitia James.
Yes, but also
Schiff.
Adam Schiff, exactly. I should say all of those cases have come to naught. There's no criminal cases against them based on the mortgages. Almost all of them have fallen apart. But what he proved was that he was willing to sort of open up materials that are supposed to be classified, are supposed to be personal, to weaponize them in pursuit of satisfying Trump's retribution campaign. So now he's been appointed or acting of the ODNI after Tulsi Gabbard left. The statute for the Office of Director of National Intelligence requires someone with considerable experience in the intelligence agencies. This is an office that was created after 9/11 to oversee all the disparate intelligence agencies because there was really no one in charge. The CIA wasn't in charge. you can criticize it, and certainly I have, based on its history or its personnel, whatever. But you don't fix it by putting someone in who's going there. There's no other reason for it, who's going there to look to weaponize intelligence against likely the American public.
And a lot of people think he's gone there. His name is Bill Pulte, by the way.
Sorry. I thought we said that, Bill.
No, I should have said it. There's a lot of theorizing that he's going there to muck up the 2026 midterms.
There's what other qualification does he have? And remember, you don't have to change votes. You don't have to, go in and change it. What the White House is trying to create, with a whole bunch of stuff going on now, that if you're following closely, it's getting worrisome. The placement of particular election oversight personnel, who they are, January 6ers, 2020 deniers, is to muck it up enough. So what I would anticipate coming out of the ODNI is he's going to stay on through November. What he's going to do is he's going to create a lot of materials about foreign infiltration, about our elections are not safe and secure. Because what Trump needs is, look, there's theories of the election that are, it's too big to fail, in the sense that the wave against Trump is so big, it's going to be hard. But the Supreme Court and other courts have made it, and red state legislators have made it easier for Trump to maintain the House. And what he needs is a fight. He needs a plausible fight, and Bill Pulte is going to be the one who gives it to him.
We have been far too mild so far. We've said he's unqualified. Mm-hmm. He has zero. Qualifications related to this job. He wasn't in the military. He has no intelligence background.
I don't even know if he has a security clearance.
And Susan Collins, of all people, the senator from Maine, the incumbent, says, I don't even know if he has a security clearance to do this job. So it's clear he's there to continue to be a hitman like he has.
Yeah.
Now, let's not stop there. There's a kid who was 19 years old.
Oh, God.
When he was a rioter, an insurrectionist on January 6th, which means now he's, 20-something. He was just appointed to a critical position in counterterrorism in the government of the United States of America. He went to jail, by the way, obviously pardoned by Trump. He's in counterterrorism.
He has, so I'm only saying this to give the full flavor of him. He condemns his activity, right? So he says, I'm so sorry about January 6th. It was a big mistake. At his sentencing,
of course.
At his sentencing, and now is going into the administration. Nothing I've seen in his bio suggests he's actually done much since he got out of jail. In fact, one reporter said they had called the House and he handed the phone to his mother to answer the questions. That's the maturity level. Let's just be clear. This isn't any office at the Department of Defense.
Sign.
Yeah, this office is called the Office of Special Operations.
Yeah.
Loosely defined. And so they're just, we're at the troll.
He participated in an effort to overthrow the government.
He entered through a broken window while wielding a metal pole.
And
he never struck anybody, but he watched his buddies strike a police officer with a pole and did nothing about it. He was sentenced to 14 days in jail.
Yeah, okay, and here's the other thing that is important. When you take a security job, you have to go through a security clearance. Once again, we don't know what these security clearances are entailing or if anyone's actually reviewing them. The question that people like me always laugh at is, have you ever sought the overthrow of the United States government? Because it's who does that?
I know.
Well, it turns out that we're going to give him a job at the Defense Department. So what's happening here?
Have you ever sought to overthrow?
But by the way, now the correct answer
check the
is
box.
yes.
Check the box.
Yeah. But only on one day, January 6th. A couple things are happening here. Right now, you're seeing sort of the sort of bottom of the barrel aspects of an administration that is wildly unpopular. They simply are not seeing people come into the administration, and they're seeing lots of people go out. This is what we knew would happen if Trump got under 40%. He's now closer to 35. So this happens in countries where, if you look at the data and the history, as one of the signs of a withering democracy is this sort of riffraff take charge. And that's what you're seeing here, without the politics involved.
Riffraff.
The other is Trump reads the polls and he is freaking terrified. And I think that, if you want to put a good news on it, which is he is now surrounding himself with the best plausible argument he has for for questioning what's about to happen in 2026, assuming it's about to happen. I don't know how to read the data from yesterday yet. And so he is surrounding himself with people who are going to give him the narrative he needs to hear, which is if he loses resoundingly in 2026, the only thing we're going to hear for 2 years is that was stolen from him. There's
Just
no,
like 2020, obviously.
because he needs it. I mean, he has no other narrative. He has no positive narrative.
Can we stay on a related topic where we have a truncated segment today with Juliette?
Oh, we do? Okay.
When I watch at night and this celebration that, oh my God, all these Republicans are standing up, not only on the slush fund, they're now standing up on this Pulte guy who's the acting head of DNI. Cornyn, who just lost his primary. Cassidy, who just lost his primary. There's another one I can't think of at the moment. With the exception of Rand Paul and Massey and one or two others, none of them had the courage to do the right thing until they lost, until they knew that they didn't have a job anymore, and until they knew they could stand up to Trump because they didn't have to protect their job anymore. So stop the celebration of people who did nothing to protect this democracy until they had nothing when it mattered.
Well,
exactly.
Thank you, Mitch McConnell. I mean,
exactly.
So one of the things to look at is Senator Thune, who's the majority leader, and he's sort of a
he's
low-key
kind of tiptoed in a little bit.
Yeah, he's tipping in. And I think one of the benefits of what happened with the slush fund, although not all pieces of this are done, right? It now appears that the acting Attorney General, did it to be able, because the provision of the slush fund that remains is that the Trump family is protected from the IRS. To let everyone,
that's outrageous.
That won't hold the next administration. They can believe whatever they want. This is going to be, this is just the Trumps and Ivanka and Jared and all of them sort of living in their never land of immunity, and because they're just acquiring multi-generational wealth now. I mean, the Trump family now will never have to work again for 4 to 5 generations now, given the billions that they are taking from us because Trump is the president. So Thune is interesting, though, because I think the more that the Republicans see how easily the White House caves. It did it with the law firms, right? I mean, all you need is a little bit of pushback, and Trump essentially doesn't want the fight, he doesn't like the fight, or he knows he's going to lose it, and it's a bad narrative. And I'm hoping that each time that happens, they see this. And here's the other thing that's going to happen. Republicans can't be primaried anymore. So this period between June, they were worried in the spring that Trump was going to have one of his minions come and primary them. And we see Trump is very successful in maintaining his lock on the Republican primary process. And so between now and November, you've got Republicans that cannot be primaried, and they are only facing Democrats. That's going to change the calculation, not for all of them. A lot of them are protected, but for someone like Susan Collins.
Well, with the one exception is a lot of these Republicans who have been candid enough to tell the truth, or at least leak the truth, about their families threatened.
Yeah.
They're not just primaried, but you go against Trump and somebody calls your cell phone or your answering machine and says, I know where your kids go to school, I know where your spouse does whatever, because that's the language of Trumpism in 2026.
Yeah, but you know something? I imagine what judges get, federal judges all around the country.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Well,
we should say she's married to the head of the First Circuit Court of Appeals.
Thank God for the judges, because the judges have been all that's becoming the hand against the tidal wave, at least to a certain degree, even though it's a slow getting there sometimes. But you know something? They could just resign. They could just resign. That's what they could do. The Republicans that say, I don't want, that guy up in Maine did it, right? He said, I'm not going to run again because of the attacks against my family and blah, blah. This is not how I want to live my life. I'm leaving. That's what you do. You don't stay there
I'm with you.
and
you
carry this guy's water.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if you can be desperate for a job when you've been a senator or...
I don't understand this for a lot of them is they look miserable, and unless you're willing, I mean, in the sense like this can't possibly be fun, they're likely to be in the minority. And maybe being in the minority, there's a theory that Trump, Trump cares more about his hold over the Republicans than he does about whether the Democrats take over the House, because he kind of likes the fight, right? He kind of likes having a foil. He doesn't have it right now, so all we're judging him on is governance, which isn't working. I mean, look, I'm standing here on June 3rd. I cannot tell you, and this is my job, what the status of the war in Iran is right now. I mean, if you ask me, all I know is confused, right? Like, what is it? It gets complicated on Facebook. That's my status right now.
Well, to quote Donald Trump yesterday, the negotiations are very boring.
Yeah.
If the negotiations are over, they're over.
Yeah. But today he said that the head of Iran is a swell guy or a nice guy. I mean, so this is look, we have to accept there's only two ways to talk about the Iranian war right now, which is either Trump has agency and therefore has lost agency to know what's going on, and therefore has lost control of what the goals are, even his own goals, which I disagreed with, what any of the goals are for this war. The other is that he doesn't have agency, and everyone sort of blames the world around him and all these people around him. Like, if that's true, then we should be having a different conversation. But you can't. He owns all of this. Like, even with the nomination, Pulte's nomination, I heard a lot of commentators talking about, well, he's friends with this person and he's doing this and what. I was like, why are we writing the president of the United States out of this script? Like, this is exactly what he wants, right? This isn't about different camps. Is J.D. Vance telling him this and Marco Rubio telling him this? Either the president has agency.
When you say agency, do you mean he's controlling the
capacity?
Capacity what? To think? What do you mean agency?
He owns all these decisions. We live in a time in which we're constantly reading tea leaves about this like criminology, like about what's going on in the White House. Like, let's stop doing that. Like, he owns all of this.
Yeah, and he doesn't give a damn. He wants to build monuments and get richer, and that's it for 2 years.
That's exactly
right. I was telling Jim, I was listening to your station, CNN, on the way, and talking about the Strait of Hormuz could be closed for much of the summer, maybe until Labor Day.
Yeah.
That's swell.
Negotiations are boring. Juliette, it's good to see you.
See you later, bye. Guys, thank you all for coming.
Okay, thank you, Juliette. Very uplifting conversation.
It was, sort of. Well, it wasn't, actually.
I'm only teasing. We've been speaking, well, I'm not teasing. It wasn't uplifting, but it's we're in a tough place, needless to say. Speaking with Juliette Kayyem, national security expert, former assistant secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, CNN's senior national security analyst. Coming up after this quick break, hold on to your French fries, Jim. We're going to open the lines for your tips. We have arrived at peak seagull season, as in seagulls stealing your fries, your burgers, your fillet of fish right out of your hands. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
When we look back at the American Revolution, we're not just looking at history. Each story reveals how a young democracy struggled with questions that still echo today. When we look at our past, we uncover what remains fragile now. Discover our series From Colony to Commonwealth at gbh.org/America250.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz, proud supporter of the Catching the Codfather podcast with Ian Koss. Episodes available on gbhnews.org or wherever you get your podcasts. More at rogersfishcompany.com. And MIT Federal Credit Union, banking built on innovation, guided by real people. Memberships open to the public. More at mitfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Former First Lady Jill Biden is likely to join us tomorrow to talk about her memoir. The auditor joins us at the library in person on Friday. Sullivan's on Castle Island is open for the summers. You know, I was there on day 2, which means not only do you get to treat yourself to fried seafood, soft serve ice cream, a beautiful view of the harbor, you also have to fend for yourself against the seagulls. By the way, I learned today they're not seagulls, they're gulls. That's what they're called.
Sound.
Gulls.
I mean, that's such a great summer sound, isn't it?
Horrible. Many
no,
warnings.
It's not. It's great.
Horrible. Many warnings have been issued. They'll take your fries, your hot dogs, your pizza, your children. They don't care. They can sense any sort
Small
of weakness
dogs.
or hesitation. So we're opening the lines. We're a little bit behind, so call in soon. Hear from you about how you manage them. At the beach, it's one thing. You can try sealing your perishables in one of Marjorie's favorite, a GBH dry bag.
That's right.
To see if those sky rats can break the seal. We're inspired by another fine story in the Globe by Billy Baker today. 877-301-8970. Call or text. Do you have an elaborate anti-seagull routine? I shouldn't say anti-seagull, to protect yourself from their behavior. Or you resigned to your fate like Gloucester's director of public works who told Baker the gulls are just, quote, angry white feathers you can't do anything about. Gulls and you, 877-301-8970. How about you?
Did you see about seagulls? I love seagulls. I mean, they are pains in the neck and stuff. But I mean, that summer sound, it's great. It's like the closing of the screen door. You know, it's one of those great summer sounds.
It is.
What do you call it when you hit the bat up at Fenway Park? And
it's called baseball.
Yeah, but there's a special name for that when you hit the bat and you hear that sound.
Baseball.
Baseball. Okay, I know it's baseball, Jim. But anyway, it's true. They steal everything. I've seen it. I was telling you before the show this morning. There was a place. I think they've closed down now down the Cape. Great Hyannis place called Baxter's. Big tourist trap. Big,
what
huge
is it, a
port.
Seafood joint?
Yeah, and they'd all be these people from Michigan and Minnesota and stuff like that out in the porch, and they're having their fried clams, and they're having and it's a riot to watch. The seagulls that's right, they're on the post, and all of a sudden go right in, and I've seen them take whole fillet of fish right off the plate, and the person's sitting there like stunned.
Well, can I say something about it?
They just paid $30 for the fillet of fish.
I mentioned this at our morning meeting, too. I was at Belle Isle Seafood the other day, which is great. You ever been there in Winthrop? No. It's fabulous. And you sit outside, and it's really beautiful. So a seagull sits down at the next table. And it's a little...
A seagull sits down at the next table.
Sit down at the next table.
Wasn't sitting down.
Well, it was sort of sitting down.
Yeah.
Another picnic
Usually they're
table.
on their little spindly legs.
Can I tell you, they are huge.
Huge. They're big.
You forget when you see them in the sky. When they're close up, sitting down, they are huge animals. And you know what they also do? You haven't had this experience. I don't know how to put this because you don't like this kind of talk on the radio. When they decide it's time to go.
Oh, Jim.
Oh, my God.
It's lunchtime. It's lunchtime.
It is brutal.
Yeah, okay.
877-301-8970. So is the dry bag your solution? Like it is. They can just see right. You say when we're pitching the dry bag, it's transparent. They can see the
right
fries.
They just go right in. I also saw at the beach last summer. You know how some of the garbage bags have that little hole, maybe like 3 by 3 for
garbage
people
can,
get stuff.
you mean?
Yeah, so the plastic ones.
Yeah.
People can put food in there. And I saw one with its beak
it's
right in the garbage can. And this little butt is up in the air. It was like those shots of Sarah Palin with the wood chipper and the turkeys. You know what I mean? The little feet are up in the air, and the seagull came out of there with all this stuff to eat. And by the way, Billy Baker's got a very funny story about these seagulls up at Gloucester, and he talks about how he was doing investigative reporting on how many seagulls were up on the particular roof, and he ran into an ornery seagull, which chased him, and the photographer took a picture of him fleeing in fear, the seagull. You know what his wife did with the picture?
No.
She made it into a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh. By the way, anonymous texters, many texters apparently have texted and said the term Marjorie is looking for
the crack
is
of the
crack
bat.
of the bat.
Yeah, I was counting on Jim to bail me out.
It's baseball.
And he didn't.
Let's go to
crack
Lauren.
of the bat. Thank you, texters.
Lauren and Marblehead. We're talking, again, they're not seagulls, they're gulls. We're talking about gulls. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I love this, a little light and loose for the day.
Yes.
Please.
But 2 super quick stories. One is similar to Marjorie's little fish story. We're big sailors growing up. My parents loved to sail the coast of New England.
Oh, nice.
And pull up into a harbor, crack open some nice gin and tonics and grilled steaks or whatever it is that we're cooking. And
great.
And one evening, my father was sitting there next to the steaks, and this seagull just swooped in and grabbed the steak and bailed. And my otherwise calm father was so furious. He was like,
a steak.
But I want to defend them. So in defense, because I love seagulls.
So do I.
I did a paddling trip, a kayak trip down in the Sea of Cortez for a week.
God.
And it was awesome. We slept under the stars on the Isle of Carmen, paddled around the Isle of Carmen, hung out with all the wildlife.
Okay. What country are you in? I'm so ignorant. I don't even know. What country are you talking about?
Oh, Mexico.
Mexico, okay.
So just south of Loreto.
Thank you.
Sea of Cortez. So my sister, who is an Outward Bound leader, says to me, and she always, an older sister, thought she was razzing me, She said, if you put your tuna fish sandwich on the beach, the seagull won't touch it. And of course I said, oh, come on. She said, test the theory. And she was 100% correct because there's no human beings down there.
Wow.
Oh,
You
so
wouldn't
they
see a
don't
human for
know.
maybe
That is
all day,
brilliant.
right?
Oh, yes. Well, that is the theory,
Yeah.
Lauren. Is that
Lauren, that was a great
is
call.
that now the
Thanks.
seagulls have come to associate every human being they see with food, so they hover around you. I love when they're
That's
like,
what I do,
They're
actually,
5
when
feet
I
away
see
from you when
humans
you.
with food. I hover around
That's right.
them.
Well, somebody just said,
Thank you.
Jim has been seagulling at the Whole Foods hot bar for years, says Paul from Fort
That may be
Lauderdale.
true.
But you know when you're at the beach and they sit like about 4 or 5 feet
Yeah.
away and just staring at you? You know, you're like in an eye-to-eye.
It's like a stare-down thing, yeah.
thing with the seagull. I love that.
You know what that reminds me of? The crack of the bat. When they're staring at you, does it not? Do you have the bat thing in the baseball
Yeah.
game and the crack
Yeah.
of the bat?
And then you see people chase after them and they come right back. It's futile. Nancy from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hello, Nancy.
Hi, I am calling, many-time caller by now. Love you guys.
Thank you.
When I was growing up in California, a sky rat decided, sorry, it's lunchtime, Marjorie, to let loose on my head.
Oh.
And I was in grammar school, and the only paper towels in the bathroom were those lovely brown ones, which all I did was smear it around, and my friends all laughed, and I just called the station, and the screener just laughed, and no, it's not funny, and every time I see them, because I love the beach, and I love being around them, the beach, but no, they are not my friends.
Well, you're an honest person, and thank you for sharing your horrible experience. I've witnessed things like that. Thank you for your call. We appreciate it.
Lynn from the North Shore says bought her 7-year-old a new birthday bocce set to the beach, and these seagulls swooped down and stole the little, I think it was a little ball piccolo. Where's Jamie?
To what point? To what end? I mean, what are they going to do with it?
Well, they eventually dropped it because they mistook it for food, and they realized, and then they dropped it. But she said, talked about the her husband waving arms frantically and yelling, and the thing dropped it because it realized it wasn't food. Imagine that, stole a little piccolo thing. And you have to be careful of the little animals. You know, if you have a little, I don't think a seagull could pick up a 10-pound dog, but I don't know. I'd be nervous. Like the hawks, you have to watch out for the hawks.
You do?
Yes, you do. And the 10-pound dogs, they could snatch them
Don't
right
eagles fly off
You
with
don't want to see your dog up
animals?
in the air and the claws of a hawk flying over
No, that'd be
to
horrible.
West Roxbury. That would be awful. Derek in
North Shore.
North Shore. Hi, Derek.
Hi. Derek, you called us.
Is Derek there? Oh, we may
That
have to
worked
switch.
well. Derek,
Okay.
he was eaten by a seagull.
Let's
okay,
go.
Patty and JP,
Patty from-
welcome.
Imagine if there were Jurassic
you.
seagulls, the big ones like the dinosaurs.
Patty, what's up?
That would be terrible.
Well, first of all, they really aren't that bad at this time of summer. They have to learn what they're doing. So if you're at the beach, every week when you go, they get closer and closer, and, you know, then they learn how to attack, and then it's like it's you against them.
That's
But
right.
Yeah, they really, right now, they're not that bad.
That's what you say. I hear you.
Well, I've been going for about 50 years to Cranes Beach, and so we've observed their behavior. But I was there
The
about-
reason you don't mind the seagulls at Crane Beach is because the greenheads are bigger than the seagulls. That's why you don't mind
Yeah.
them. Patty, thanks for the call.
When did the greenheads come out?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're awful.
They're brutal.
Ed in Medford, what do you think, Ed?
Hi, Ed.
Well, hey guys,
Hi.
we go to Hampton Beach all the time.
Yeah.
And last summer I was eating a sub sandwich from the Market Basket. That's the routine. We go to Market Basket and we get to the parking before 9:15, and we get a spot right in front of the bathrooms. And so I was sitting there eating my sandwich, and a big gull came down and whacked me in the head and grabbed the whole sandwich and flew off.
Wait a second. It knocked in your head before it
Knocked
took
him
the
right
sandwich?
over.
Well, I think my head was in the way. It was
Oh,
in a
gosh.
flight path. So
That's
when I came out, I told my lady friend about it. She brought me a big plush toy with a double-headed gull, and on the one side is eating a French fry, and on the other side is eating a piece of pizza. and I stuck it in the chandelier, and he's up there in the living room.
Pretty good story, Ed.
That's a good
Thanks
one.
for the call.
I'm being corrected. Baxter's is still open.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it's
You almost
for
put
sale.
them out of business.
It's for sale, but it is open for the summer. So if you want to go down to Baxter's, sit in the porch and have your fillet of fish stolen, you could do it right there. They're great for clams and lobsters. It's a great place. I hope they keep it
I don't
open.
think most people have their fillet of fish stolen. It's not exactly a way. You almost shut down the business by saying it was already closed. And
I
now
know,
when
I'm
you
sorry.
corrected
Baxter's is
itself and
open.
said it was open,
Nope.
you said if you go there, the Seagull's going to take your $30 fillet of fish.
Usually,
well, you're really helping them out there.
Usually they take your French fries.
They
That's
do.
what usually they take is the
Yeah.
French fries. Yeah, but it is a great spot right on Hyannis Harbor. You can look at the boats and sit out there, and you just have to lean over your plate protectively of what you need.
Well,
what
except
you
you
need to
heard
do.
what happened with Ed.
Knocked him right over.
Flew right into his head, so
And
he could
maybe-
knock him out of the way.
Maybe we should just get out of the way and surrender and let the Seagull come in. Now listen to this. This is Jenny from Somerville. My 3-year-old son was shocked when half his PB&J was snatched by a seagull. Now, when it's time to eat, she throws a beach towel over his head so he can eat under the towel.
Can I say one of my pet peeves, and then we have to talk to a couple of friends who are busy exercising,
Yeah.
cycling, while we're standing here eating lunch. You want to hate when you go to the beach
What do you
and
hate,
people
Jim?
are baiting the seagulls by holding up a fry,
yeah.
basically inviting them to take all your food. I mean, really. In any case, enough seagulls. Send us a text if you'd like to, because we want to check in with a couple of people who are with us. I guess about a month ago or something. We're checking with James Beard winning chef Jody Adams, owns a ton of restaurants in town, and nonprofit leader Billy Shore. We spoke to them a couple of weeks ago ahead of their annual Chef's Cycle. It's a bike ride, a fundraiser for No Kids Hungry. You go to chefscycle.org if you want to make a contribution for a really important cause. They're now on day 2 of the ride on the banks of the Deschutes River, wherever the hell that is, in Oregon. Jody and Billy, welcome back. How are you two?
We're great. Great. Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
Okay, so tell us, Jody, let's start with you. How's day 1 so far?
Well, it's day 2.
Oh, it's
Day
day 2?
two.
Oh, forget that then.
Okay,
How's day
so-
1 and 2?
Day 1 was fabulous, brutal. I thought I was broken at the end, and now day 2 is like easy peasy. The weather's amazing. It's gorgeous. And the team that supports the ride does an amazing job. So we're well fed and well hydrated.
So, Billy, you going to make up a story like Jody and say how great you are today on day 2, or what?
Well, no, I would just say I never thought I would be able to keep up with Jody on a bike, and it turns out I was right. I can't. She's unbelievable on a bike. But because we've got 150 people like Jody here, we've already raised $1.2 million for the No Kid Hungry campaign.
Wow.
Explain what that goes to, Billy. You told us a few weeks ago, but if people missed it, what does the campaign use the money for?
Yeah, all the money goes to help ensure that low-income kids get school meals and summer meals. So the money goes directly to school districts, to local, state, and county governments that are implementing the school breakfast program and the summer meals program.
So, Jody, how does it work? How many miles are you riding every day, and do you get stop at 5 o'clock so you can go have cocktails and stay overnight at a nice hotel, or what's the deal?
Absolutely. No. Yeah, we start at 6:45 and ride 100 miles, and there are like 7 stops along the way. So we're never without support. But definitely beer and wine at the end.
Yeah. And Billy, 100 miles is still 100 miles. I mean, you must have to train.
100 miles a day.
I know.
It's actually, it's actually not the miles, it's the hills. So yesterday we climbed 4,800 feet, which is an unbelievable amount to climb for anybody. And then today's about 3,000 feet of climb, so today seems like a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Hey, Jody, most of the people doing this, I know not everybody, are people like you, restaurateurs,
Yes.
chefs, that kind of deal, right? What is it in the DNA of people like you? We've discussed this before, that restaurateurs are so dedicated to these kinds of principles. What's that about, do you think?
I just think in our bones, we're in the business of giving. And I mean, we've heard a lot of people talking the last couple of nights about why they do this. And it's, every kid is our kid, and every kid deserves not to be hungry. And so the organization is one that ensures that isn't happening, and it shouldn't happen. It's a solvable problem, as Billy Sure, Seth.
Hey, guys, come join us on the ride next year.
Hey.
My pitch is, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Send us a video.
Yeah.
Hey,
okay, it's chefcycle2026.org.
I'm so sorry.
chefcycle2026.org.
Make a contribution for a fabulous cause.
Yeah,
Billy,
to me.
Got it. Jody Adams, Billy Shore, great to talk to you both. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Good luck.
Yep. And Jim has said he's bought a big boy bike, and next year is going to be the year.
Why don't we do a bicycle built for two and you pedal? I'm serious. That's the solution.
I can see it now.
We'll be there.
Okay, Jill will be reclining, and I'll
Go
be
check
killing
Jody
myself.
Adams,
Jody Adams,
chefcycle2026.com.
That's right. That's right. No Kid Hungry campaign. Thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio.
Good for them.
We're pretty sure that we're going to have Jill Biden talking about her new book with us tomorrow, and we're going to have a bunch of other guests. Chuck Todd is going to be here. Globe film critic Odie Henderson is going to be here. We want to thank our crew: Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Ariana Gonzalez, Jonathan Claude Parker, Jenny Bologna, Maddie Guy, Patrick Lally, Lauren Herbert, Darius and Derek, Newsfeed Cafe folks, and the Lennox Hotel folks. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk with Edgar B. Hurd III. He's going to continue the bird talk with Mass Audubon Director of Bird Conservation John Herbert, starting right after us on 89.7 The Culture Show, with Jared Bowen starts at 2, adding a best of. So he's not going to be here at the Boston Public Library studio. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Hope you can tune in again tomorrow, and have a great day.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future. How did we get here? How-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Safety Insurance, offering a variety of home insurance products to cover your home's increased value. You can ask an independent agent about Safety Insurance. Safety Insurance. We'll help you manage life's storms. And Mass General Brigham. In heart surgery, expertise matters. Mass General Brigham Heart and Vascular Institute performs thousands of surgeries each year and is committed to research and innovation. massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston, winner of 4 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, well, life was not easy during the time of the American Revolution. While colonist soldiers were contending with the British, the wider population was fighting a much smaller, deadlier foe, smallpox. It's a story of liberty of a different kind, and a hospital set on fire as an act of pro-vaccine rebellion. Meanwhile, in present-day New England, we tend to take our humble, locally owned and operated ice cream stands for granted. That's what one husband and wife duo learned on their quest to find the cream of the crop, so to speak. Then we're hitting the road. Join us as we journey to Broadmoor Wildlife Sanctuary to peep some wisdom from our avian neighbors.
Birds are a good gateway drug to nature. You may not want to go look at spiders or snakes may creep you out, but birds are familiar.
Yeah, we'll do the spiders and snakes another time. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal judge is considering whether to block parts of President Trump's executive order that calls for restricting voting by mail. NPR's Hansi Lowang reports the judge could rule on Trump's order as soon as this week.
So far, the executive order President Trump signed in March has not directly affected mail-in voting for this year's elections. It calls for the U.S. Postal Service to come up with lists of eligible voters and deliver mail-in ballots only to people on those lists. USPS is financial support of NPR. Mika Simmons is an attorney for Delta Sigma Theta sorority, one of the order's challengers.
No president has the authority to rewrite election law by executive order.
A federal judge in Boston is now weighing whether Trump's order violates the Constitution, which gives power to state legislatures and Congress, not the president, to set federal election rules. Anzila Wong, NPR News.
Yesterday's California gubernatorial primary has yet to be called. The state puts all candidates on a single ballot, regardless of party. Two top will advance to the general election. All eyes are also on the race for Los Angeles mayor, as votes were still being counted last night. Democratic incumbent Karen Bass was first to advance to the November runoff. President Trump confirms he told Israel's prime minister that he is crazy and used an expletive during a call this week that halted planned Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon's capital. Axios News website first reported details of Monday's call. Here's NPR's Itai Stern.
Trump was asked by conservative writer Miranda Devine on her show Pod Force One about the Axios report and if he had cursed at Netanyahu and called him crazy. Trump confirmed he did and added,
I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. At some point I said, maybe we got to stop this. We got to stop it.
Trump says despite their differences, the two leaders have worked well together, but they are increasingly at odds. Trump wants to end the war with Iran, and Netanyahu's pushed back. Iran, however, says any ceasefire deal must include Lebanon. For NPR News, I'm Itai Stern in Tel Aviv.
The U.S. Trade Representative says the administration will impose extra tariffs of at least 10% on imports from 60 economies. Here's NPR's Jennifer Pack.
China says it opposes all forms of unilateral tariffs. President Trump returned to office last year, imposing levies on trade partners under an emergency law. Those were struck down by the Supreme Court earlier this year. Now, the Trump administration is starting to rebuild the tariff wall by initiating trade investigations under different powers to impose new levies. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning says economic and trade issues should be resolved through dialogue and consultation. That is in the works, according to China's Commerce Ministry. It said during Trump's meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping last month, both sides agreed to discuss tariff reduction.
It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. It is Pride Flag Raising Day at the Massachusetts State House today. Governor Maura Healey was on hand for the 11 a.m. event hosted by the LGBTQ plus Legislative Caucus. Also in attendance were First Lady Joanna Lydgate, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, Senate President Karen Spilker, Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell, and Senator Julian Cyr, among many others. Residents of Worcester can meet one-on-one with representatives from National Grid this month to learn about bill assistance programs, payment plans, and ways to lower energy costs before the peak summer heat arrives. The Worcester Guardian reports National Grid will host 3 upcoming events in Worcester this month, and they come as many households continue to feel the impact of sky-high utility costs following another icy cold New England winter. The first event is scheduled for tomorrow, June 4th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at St. Bernard's Church Community Room on Lincoln Street in Worcester. A second event will be held this Friday, June 5, from 9 a.m. to noon. That's at El Buen Sammartino on Piedmont Street. And then a third event will take place on June 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Centro Inc. on Sycamore Street. In sports, it's the Red Sox and Orioles, Game 2 of their 3-game series at Fenway tonight. Newsflash Nancy says the Sox have the worst homestand record in Major League Baseball with just 9 Teddy ball game wins and 20 losses. Ouch. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, working to help protect small businesses and the owners that run them, offering customizable coverages to salons, accounting firms, tradespeople, and more. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're near a computer, why not join us there? So just weeks before the American Revolution would become a full-blown war, Massachusetts faced a crisis of another kind. Smallpox was spreading. Again, the people were terrified, in a lot of cases desperate to be inoculated. This, of course, is a time well before vaccines. And as one historian put it, getting inoculated was seen by some as liberty. Liberty in another form, liberty from disease. This underexplored chapter of American history is the focus of some terrific reporting from Jennifer Moore. She's statewide and features editor for GBH News, and she's joined today with us by Kanasorn Wongsrishanalai of the Massachusetts Historical Society. This is a remarkable story about science, equity, and America fighting disease 250 years ago. Jennifer, Kanasorn, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Well, let's sort of set the tenor of the time, so to speak. For listeners who don't know, what was inoculation from smallpox in the 1700s? How did it work?
I can dive into that with just an overarching, and then Kanasorn, I'm going to hand the reins to the real expert. But inoculation is basically where doctors or health officials would take an infected part of smallpox, basically, from someone who was sick and inject it into the body of a healthy person for the sake of immunity. So that person would actually get smallpox, the disease, but the idea was they would get a more controlled and more moderate form of it and hopefully survive for the sake of building immunity.
Absolutely. And the results spoke for themselves. Smallpox is a very deadly disease. It kills up to 30% of people that it infects. But with the inoculation process, that number was down to 1% or less. So it had real results. The problem, of course, was that when you were inoculated with smallpox, you were also a spreader of smallpox. And so you had to be quarantined for a very long time. And not everyone can stay quarantined for 6 to 8 weeks in order to make sure that they have passed through this process successfully.
In this story, and we'll get into it, there's a pretty dramatic event, that sort of puts in relief what was going on. But I wonder, where did things stand in the 1770s in terms of how long had we been doing this here? I mean, this was not the first outbreak of smallpox in colonial New England. Where did the idea come from? How do we know the numbers that you're talking about, Kanasorn? Like, the rates of infection and the rates of death, et cetera. Like, where were we exactly in 1775, say?
Well, Boston's actually the first place in English North America where they experimented with inoculation. The idea actually had come from an enslaved person by the name of Onesimus, who belonged to one of the founders of Boston, one of the leading families. And he pointed out that back in Africa, they had performed this operation on him, this inoculation process. And it was Zabdiel Boylston, who's an ancestor of John Adams, who helped experiment with this. I think it is 1621 outbreak, Jennifer, if I'm remember that correctly. And so there'd been multiple inoculations over time, and it was respected. John Adams believed in it. He's the one who undergoes it in 1764, and it's Abigail Adams and the other Adams kids who go through it in 1776. But Boston being Boston, they kept very good records of how many people were infected, how many people were then inoculated, and how many people survived.
Yeah, and really the early American inoculation program, right? It was a well-oiled machine. We can talk about that in a bit, but you're completely right, Kanasorn, in that there is a real debt to traditional African medicine and it coming over through Onesimus to the Mather family and then to Dr. Boylston. And I would love to report more on that because there's another really special story there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Mather story right here on the Curiosity Desk. Briefly, we were talking about Cotton Mather yesterday. And, Cotton Mather, of course, I think if people know of him today and think of him, it's largely wrapped up in the Salem witch trials, and there is this, it's interesting that he's also involved in this inoculation story too, because I think to a certain extent it just sort of points out the fuzzy line between magic and science at the time.
This is a really important moment in human history. We have to remember that the age of the American Revolution is also the age of the Enlightenment. And Enlightenment principles about personal liberty, about people's roles in government, all of that, what inspired the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, all of that is also coming through in how people are reacting to scientific discoveries and exploring the natural world and whatnot. And so, yes, this is a time when magic and mysticism is also being challenged and faced with new techniques of science.
You know, what do we...
Science, and I will also add to that.
Go ahead.
The idea and the notion of self-governance, right? Like, these are not separate stories. There is a brilliant book out by Dr. Andrew Werman, professor at Central Michigan University, that really is meticulously researched and spectacularly written about how the control of smallpox in the 1770s really paralleled with self-governance, right? And how we want to determine best how to keep ourselves healthy. So it's just a fascinating, not even parallel, but really they were interwoven.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with GBH's Jennifer Moore and Kanasorn Wong-Sri-Shanalai about smallpox during the time of the American Revolution. What do we know about how the general population felt about this at the time? Is this something that, you know, across New England, would it be fair to say this is something that was widely done? Was it widely accepted? Was there skepticism? Was there fear? What's the climate?
I can say it really changed from the 1600s into the 1700s, and then by 1770s, yes, generally people were behind it. You know, the era of the Revolution, colonists didn't agree on much, right? They didn't agree on even independence. But smallpox and how to best control it was a real uniting factor. It started out as something very weird, there were religious elements to it, but by the 1770s, yes, it was a real unifying factor.
Kanasorn, I see you sort of smiling and nodding there.
I'm smiling and nodding because Massachusetts was really a leader in this, that depended on the colony that you were in, but some colonies were more hesitant and resistant to these ideas of public health campaigns to inoculate the population against smallpox. Massachusetts was a real leader in this, in that by about 10 years after Cotton Mather tells Boylston about this idea of inoculation, there are laws that are being passed to ensure that the public health is maintained, that towns can be quarantined, that they can be shut down, that inoculation campaigns can begin, and that immunity can spread widely. So kudos to Massachusetts.
Jennifer, in the story that you've produced around this topic, I hinted at it before. There's this really kind of dramatic scene. These sailors and these fishermen go out to an island and burn a hospital where inoculation was happening. Why?
Yeah, it was a fairly new hospital, and it was a private hospital. So only the wealthy were getting inoculated. And these fishermen, the sailors who rode out under the cloak of nightfall, they were not wealthy. And they could see, as Kanasorn was mentioning earlier, they could see not only the public health data of the effectiveness of the inoculation, they could also see people getting sick all around them. It was such a visible contagion, right? So they did it as an act of protest for health equity and saying, you know, we want this for ourselves as well. And they burned the hospital to the ground.
You know, you were just saying earlier, Jennifer, you know, this idea that, you know, the story that we think of when we think of, you know, the American Revolution and the revolution of ideas that lead up to that, and this are not separate stories. And, you know, one of the great buzzwords of the time is the word liberty. And this gets used in this context too. I mean, you describe it, it's been described as liberty from disease or liberty of disease. What did that mean at the time? Is that a term they were using, or is that a way of thinking of it today?
Oh, it was definitely a theme that came up repeatedly throughout the smallpox inoculation and the public health control. You know, liberty from some kind of a threat. I mean, and liberty today is still a uniting factor among a very fractious and divisive America, right? Like, we all can get behind liberty, but it's just an issue of what is the threat, right? Well, in those days, the contagion was the threat. You could see it everywhere. And that threat and that fear of the enemy has somewhat morphed over time. But yes, people were really, really concerned about that and wanted to have that power to help decide how to keep themselves safe.
Might I quote from John Adams on this very subject?
Quotes from John Adams are always welcome here, sir.
Very good. Well, John Adams writes to Abigail Smith, who's his fiancée at the time. This is a letter from April 26, 1764. And he's about to undergo smallpox inoculation. Quote, "Don't conclude from anything I have written that I think inoculation a light matter. A long and total abstinence from everything in nature that has any taste, 2 heavy vomits, 1 heavy cathartic, 24 mercurial and antinomial pills, and 3 weeks close confinement to a house are, according to my estimation of things, no small matters. However, who should not cheerfully submit to them rather than pass his whole life in continual fears, in subjection, under bondage? Being afraid of smallpox, the threat of smallpox is like being enslaved in his mind."
Wow. You know, John Adams would, of course, go on to be president of the United States, the second president of the United States. The first president, of course, we all know being George Washington, who, when we're looking at the Revolutionary era, is the head of the Continental Army. Now, you know, I mean, there are any number of historians who, you know, point out that the fact that smallpox is raging through the Continental Army, and at least for a period, George Washington was hesitant to the idea of inoculation for the Army, but he changes his mind. This has a positive impact, and some people had a huge impact on our side winning the wars. You know, it's maybe not too far of a stretch to say that. So, can you tell us a little bit about what was going on with George Washington in this period and why he sort of changes his mind in terms of whether or not inoculation is for the soldiers?
Well, the quarantine time is an issue for him. He's a military commander. He's concerned that this is a threat to the military effectiveness of the Continental Army, that you're going to be in quarantine for 2 months. That's ample time for the enemy to take advantage of this. I think we have to give credit to someone that we don't often talk about when we talk about this era, and that is Martha Washington, his wife, who undergoes inoculation in Philadelphia and changes George Washington's mind to the effectiveness of this inoculation process. And when he changes his mind, he changes it entirely, and he risks the Army's health in the winter of 1777, but ultimately it saves the Continental Army.
Wow. So, yeah, no small thing. You know, when you think about this story, you can't help in a post-COVID world and not too far afield from the dark days of COVID, you can't help but see it, I guess, in a certain context post-COVID. It sort of resonates in a particular way. Is that part of what attracted you to this story, Jennifer?
Well, yes, and Edgar, I come from a medical family, so, most dinner tables around, the family talks around sports or their day, but in the Moore family, excuse me, we talked about, what surgery we had that day, or, all the fun dinner table conversations. So I have a background of appreciation for medicine and public health, and also government reporting. And, for me, one thing that really jumped out is how effective the early public health system was, the system of epidemiology in 1770s Boston, because there was this quadrant of players that were all working together. You had the doctors, you had the local selectmen, you had the press, and then you had the general public. And it took everyone doing their part. And that is obviously a contrast to what we saw in COVID. There was a lot of trust between those players. So it really emerged as an example of, in some ways, what could work better.
You talk about, the system that we had in place, and, I think about some of the subtleties that we're able to look back on this time period and understand, because, as you pointed out, Canisorn, we had great public records, and that's not just in Boston, that's kind of in all of these towns. I mean, you are with the Massachusetts Historical Society. I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about the importance of those primary documents that we have of that time period, and how that enables us to be able to look back at this time and see it in more color than we might otherwise.
Thank you very much for mentioning that. The Massachusetts Historical Society is the first historical society in the nation and was founded by individuals who
historical society.
Yes, exactly right.
Historical decision.
Here in Boston. And it was created by folks who wanted to make sure that the historical record, the documents, the building blocks of American life were preserved for future generations. And I think that when we look at them, we see that these are individuals who are not unlike ourselves, that they are filled with fear, they are filled with concern for the future, for their loved ones, for the families, and they're just trying to make the best decisions they can with what they know about the world. And I think that in this 250th year, when we're going to be talking a lot about these founders and whatnot, there's a tendency to think of them as these perfectly formed individuals who knew exactly what was going to happen, who knew how everything would turn out. They're not. If you read Abigail's letters to John, John's letters to Abigail, and all of these other documents that we have at the Historical Society, you get a real sense of these human emotions that are in everyday life.
Beautiful stuff. We've been speaking with Jennifer Moore, statewide and features editor for GBH News, and Kanasoran Wong Sri Shanalai from the Mass Historical Society. You can check out Jennifer's terrific feature by going to gbhnews.org. Thank you both for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll get the scoop on why New England ice cream punches above its weight. And we want your calls and texts on this one. What's the best of the best in your opinion? This is the Curiosity Desk. I'm Edgar B. Harbuck III. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, Bob Odenkirk built a career playing men with more going on beneath the surface than they first let on. In the new film Normal, he stars in a story that pairs deadpan humor with sudden violence and turns the idea of the average man into something much stranger and more dangerous. Odenkirk joins us with director Derek Kolstad to talk about their new film and why Normal is anything but. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Gloucester Stage, presenting Bad Books by Sharon Rothstein. Excitement erupts in a small town when a civil dispute becomes a raucous debate in the quietest of places, the library. Starts June 4th. GloucesterStage.com. And Bunker Hill Community College, offering 6-week summer mini-sessions to achieve college and skills goals. Sessions start June 1st and July 13th. Registration is open. bhcc.edu/summer.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, it is 78 degrees and sunny out there. Happy early summer, everyone. One thing we understand we take for granted here in New England in the summertime, the volume and quality of locally owned and operated ice cream stands. Our reputation remains unmatched when it comes to rich, dense, classic ice cream. Now, when we say ice cream stands, you know what we're talking about. Cash-only picnic benches covered in that sticky sludge, maybe a gentle aroma of cow manure wafting through the air, a couple of ticks trying to jump on you. Charming stuff. You know it. Well, for the next few minutes, we're going to open up the phone lines and text lines at 877-301-8970. We want to know your take on New England ice cream. In particular, New England ice cream. Is it really a different beast from other parts of the country? Is it better? What's in your perfect scoop? Is there a case to be made for the trendy ice creams we're seeing popping up? Your butter dipped, your lobster cone monstrosities, etc., weird flavors. Again, 877-301-8970, all things ice cream. Now, to help us on this journey, we have two actual authorities with us in studio who are on a quest of their own to answer this and many more questions about New England ice cream. Elijah and Kendra Richards. They are a husband and wife duo. They are behind the TikTok ice cream review channel, Moo England Diaries. Elijah and Kendra, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you.
All right, so what is this quest? How did this quest start?
So honestly, it was just something me and my wife did as a hobby. We had an ice cream stand right down the street from us that we really loved, and we decided, I think last summer, we were going to try and get every ice cream on the menu. And so we sample a couple, and then we shared a notes app.
How many flavors are we talking about when you say every?
Probably like...
There's at least 25, probably.
Oh, I'd say, yeah. 30,
at least.
Okay. Yeah, maybe 30, 40.
Yeah.
And was this just a rationalization to yourselves about like
Yes.
being able to eat more ice cream?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yes.
I don't really,
Exactly.
I know I shouldn't have more ice cream, but we have to because we're doing this thing.
100%.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. So we shared this notes app between the two of us, and then we would write down the flavor we got, and then we would just give it a score. You know, how creamy it was, how icy it was, how much, you know, how many mix-ins there were in the ice cream. And then it just kind of developed over time.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Does that sound correct to you, Kendra?
Yeah, you know, it was all accurate. It kind of just stemmed from us. I think we got Coffee Oreo the first rating we did, and we were like, we should make a thing out of this, and that's kind of how it was born.
And that's how it's been born. All right, so can we talk a little bit more about the criteria when we're rating this? Like, really, take me inside of your rating system. How did you develop this rating system? What are we How are we scoring these ice creams? What are we scoring them on?
Yeah. We have 3 top criteria that we score on. So we do price to size, which is the ratio of the amount of ice cream you get to
how much
it costs.
For it. Okay.
And then we rate on mix-ins. So how many chunks of whatever are in it. So if it's a coffee Oreo, how much Oreo is in that ice cream versus the ice cream itself.
And this is, you're just purely saying how much it is. There's not like an optimal amount. It's just like there's a lot of it, there's a little of it, there's a medium amount.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it's personal preference. Ice cream's subjective, so it's going to change all the time.
Yep.
And then our third is just our overall rating. So we take into consideration the service we were provided, the overall vibe of the ice cream stand itself. Anything else?
Creaminess.
Yeah,
creaminess.
I would say it's
honorable mention for flavor, like unique flavors.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, talk to me about like where the flavor comes into this. Like, you know, when it comes to something that I really love is pizza, right? And I have this thing where I say, if I'm going to a new pizza place, if I'm trying a new place for pizza, or somebody's like, this pizza's really great, the first thing I do is get just a regular slice of pizza because I don't want to be distracted by whatever cool toppings they might put on it. You need to know at its base, is this good pizza? And in order to do that, you need a plain piece of pizza.
Yeah.
So is it like that for you with ice cream? I mean, like, are the flavors inherently part of the ice cream, or is there like this kind of base that you need to establish, and then you can start to get creative with the flavors?
That's a great question. I think it kind of depends. We go immediately for the mix-in heavy ice cream, but we do make sure that we take into consideration what that base tastes like. So if it's vanilla, chocolate, how creamy is it? Is the chocolate overpowering? That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to the phones now. We got Lynn in Seekonk who wants to weigh in on this ice cream conversation. Lynn, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You're touching my favorite subject, ice cream. I have a place, Somerset Creamery in Somerset, Mass. They have 2 places, one on Route 6, one on County Street. And I've been going there forever, and I've gone to different places. And, you know, and by far the best, especially rum raisin ice cream like ever. And they even make the big homemade, those big waffle cones. So you can get like 3 scoops in them, if you know, if that is your happy place.
All right.
And they're open seasonally, and I think it's like from now till like October, and then they start back up again. But just the best.
Lynn, is it always rum raisin for you? Does it have to be rum raisin, or do you cheat on the rum raisin sometimes?
I've done different flavors, but now it's.
But you
like
always
I
go back to your one true love.
I go there, and they have like peach cobbler, and they have fresh blueberry ice cream, and the chocolate is divine. And then I go in and I look at all these places, and I just say, what would you like? I go, rum raisin.
Well, Lynn, you're getting me hungry for ice cream here. It sounds like you're also getting hungry for ice cream, so I'm going to let you go get some ice cream. Thanks for the call. We've got some text weighing in. Folks saying Kimball Farms is goated. In Weymouth, a little plug for Ice and Dough. They say not ice cream, but homemade gelato. They say it's outstanding. I see a couple of nods here. Okay. Let's talk about what you're learning as you're going on this journey, man. I love the thing where that moment where somebody who's kind of into something loads in fully and then says, I'm really going to do this at a scale that I've never done it before. And then all of a sudden you start to learn a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't realize you were going to learn. So what are you learning on this journey?
I'm learning just how much dairy I can consume. That's for sure. But a lot of different things. I mean, we've traveled the country quite a bit, and one of the things we've noticed is these like typical New England ice cream stands don't really exist in these other states, like the clam shack vibe where you walk up to the window.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law live out in Kansas City, Missouri, and they have like Dairy Queen. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a very unique vibe to New England.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people in New England understand that it is a unique vibe in New England, or do you think it's something that folks maybe take for granted?
I think it's something that people take for granted. I think because we're just so used to it, we think it's the norm. But you travel anywhere outside of New England, and it's not as easy to come by. Or you might be looking at a Dairy Queen or more of like an ice cream parlor instead of a walk-up window.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Phone lines are open, 877-301-8970. This is the Curiosity Desk. We're talking ice cream. Do you have a favorite ice cream spot? Are you from a region of the country that does it better than New England? If you are, make a claim. Make your case. Give us a call, 877-301-8970, or send us a text. We're talking with Elijah and Kendra Richards. They're from the TikTok channel Moo England Diaries. They are systematically going through every ice cream place they can find and doing ratings. How far along on this journey are we? Like, how many places have you been to? Like, what's the plan here, you two?
The plan, we had no plan.
The plan is to get ice cream in all 6 New England states.
Okay.
We have only hit New Hampshire and Massachusetts so far.
Okay.
But 20 ice cream stands?
About 30 probably at this point.
You think?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah, it's quite, and the list is extensive. There's probably another 50 that have been recommended.
A lot.
And what do you do? Like once you go to a place, you do rating. Like, how does it work? You make a video for TikTok? Do you like walk us through if I want to check out your stuff? What am I getting?
Go for it.
Okay. So when we go get the ice cream, we'll take turns kind of getting the B-roll to create the TikTok. We'll usually try to hit 2 stands in one day so that we have content for the week. We usually post on Sundays and Thursdays.
Yep. Or Sundays and Wednesdays.
Sundays and Wednesdays, depending. And so you'll hear my voice saying, this week on Moo England Diaries, we went to so-and-so ice cream stand. And I kind of walk through the rating system. So I talk about the ice cream flavor that we got, what the mix-ins were, talk about the price to size. We usually also give the price. And then we go through that, and then usually we will always recommend at least trying out the ice cream stand, whether we liked the ice cream or not.
Okay.
So we will never necessarily give a bad review.
Gotcha.
But we might not always love the ice cream.
Parse if you parse what you're saying carefully, you'll get a sense of whether or not it's in the upper echelon or not.
Right.
Do you have thoughts on soft serve? I feel like nobody ever talks about soft serve.
I'm not crazy about soft serve, but
okay, why?
I think that's mainly
it's
because
too delicious for you.
We like the mix-ins. We like the mix-ins. We like the chunks. I mean, both of us have huge sweet tooth, so anytime you can combine the cookies and the cakes and the pies into an ice cream, I think you immediately win us over.
And the soft serve, you can't do it with that.
No, you really can't. I mean, ice cream's ice cream. If I have a soft serve vanilla in front of me or a plate of carrots, you know which one I'm going to choose.
And on top of that, most places don't offer a lot of soft serve options, so you're pretty limited in most places. So that
it's like chocolate, vanilla, and swirl.
Right. Maybe coffee if you're lucky.
Yeah, sprinkles or not.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go back to the phones. We got Jill in the car. Jill, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. What's your ice cream stuff for us here? Here we go.
You want to go to Burlington, Massachusetts, to Holy Cow on 3rd Ave. I'm the mail person who delivers there, and their ice cream is fabulous.
Okay.
My favorite flavor is Ritz, RITZ-AF, and you can guess what the AF stands for. It is absolutely delicious. It's butter ice cream.
Butter ice cream. All right, so Jill, what is it? Is it just that they have that flavor that makes them the best, or is there something else about it that makes it the best?
They have seasonal flavors. They change. They have a baklava ice cream that is amazing. They have tiramisu. They have blueberry muffin. They have blueberry pie. They have apple pie. The flavors are just amazing and out of the box for the norm. They have the basics, too. They also have vegan ice cream for people.
Jill, you have their entire menu memorized.
Well, I'm a mail person, so sometimes that's what I have for lunch when I go there. I have ice cream.
Ice cream for
instead.
lunch? Well, yeah, I mean, hey, listen, you need that sugar, you need that energy because you're delivering the mail. You're at work, you know?
Right. Today's a great day to stop there for the 78, 80 degrees. They also make the homemade waffle cones, too, so they're nice and warm. And they put a little treat at the bottom, so when you get to the end, you don't just have an empty little cone. You have chocolate at the bottom. They put some chips in there, and they melt because it's warm.
Genius.
So you still have a little treat at the end.
Jill, you've got me sold. I'm heading to Burlington later. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Now, Jill brings something up, I think, which is important, is should we be factoring the cone and cone options into the ice cream when we're thinking about ice cream or not?
I mean, I would say yes because I am a cone
You're
person.
a cone person. Are you?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a cup guy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're on different sides of the fence on that in your
Yeah.
family.
Yep.
Okay. Why are you not a cone person?
I think it takes away from the experience a little bit. If I want ice cream, I just want the ice cream. I mean, cones are great. It goes back to my other point. It's sugar. You know what I mean?
If you got a cone and a plate of carrots, I know which way you're going.
100%.
Yeah.
And Kendra, for you, why are you pro cone?
I enjoy eating the cone as a part of my ice cream eating experience.
Yeah. I think at least when I was a kid, I think I liked the cone even better to a certain extent. I'm more of like, I like salty and I'm a bread guy, right? So I would love to get to the cone. And there was a place where I grew up in Pennsylvania where they had pretzel cones, and I love pretzels. So pretzel cone.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's pretty delicious. All right, 877-301-8970 if you want to give us a call or a text. This is the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Elijah and Kendra Richards of the TikTok channel New England Diaries about New England ice cream. Well, we've got Janet in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. So I'm interested to hear what Janet has to say. Janet, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I'm glad you recognize that I'm from Cherry Hill and where that is, because I did live in Boston area for many, many years, and I'm still listening to WGBH or GBH now.
Yeah.
All the time.
We appreciate it.
Anyway.
What do you got on ice cream? Yeah, go on.
I'm going to say that forget all these fancy places where you're going to pay a fortune for ice cream. Just go to the grocery store, any of the grocery stores in the Boston area, and buy Tillamook ice cream.
Tillamook ice cream. All right, so why Tillamook?
Tillamook.
Why Tillamook?
It's as good as any of the ice cream places. It's very rich. It's consistent. It's got great lickability. And the chocolate, any of the chocolate flavors are out of this world.
Now, are you saying this just because the ice cream in New Jersey is so bad, or?
Well, I've only been here a year, but I'm just a devoted fan of Tillamook, and I'll tell you, it's great to have it wherever whenever you're home.
Yeah.
I always have it available. So
Ice cream at home is
I don't have
nice.
to go anywhere for it.
Janet, have you tried a water ice down there in New Jersey? The
water ice? No.
No.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say no. I have. I think I have. But to me, see, that stuff just doesn't count. Just doesn't have cream in it.
It's no Tillamook. It's no Tillamook.
Yeah.
All right, Janet, thanks for the call. We appreciate that. Recommending Tillamook ice cream. What's your thoughts? You're obviously going to these ice cream stands, but ice cream at home is the same thing, or is there something special about, like, it's summertime and you're getting out there and you're getting the sticky bench and all of that?
You hit the nail on the head with that one. We definitely are the type of people where, nice day or not, it's the summer, we're ice cream after dinner people every night.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not every night. We would do it every night.
You're like, not every night. Actually, sometimes twice in one night.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it's
To make up for
there's definitely something special about going out and getting your ice cream versus just having it at home.
A couple mosquitoes,
All
right, I can't help but notice you have brought a cooler in here with you, so this makes me suspect that maybe there is some ice cream here. Can we eat some? Let's eat some before I got to let you go.
Absolutely.
What did you bring and why?
All right, so do you want me to?
You take it out, I'll talk.
So go ahead.
So we got a pint from our favorite ice cream stand that's local to us. It's called Sullivan Farms in Tingsboro, Massachusetts.
Sullivan Farms in Tingsboro.
And it is... Go ahead.
The flavor?
Yeah.
Oh, man, the flavor.
Oh, go on.
This flavor is called Cookie Chaos.
Cookie Chaos.
Yes, it's vanilla-based ice cream.
Okay.
It's got Oreos, Chips Ahoy, and like maybe a caramel swirl in it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
I would say it's one of our top-rated ice cream stands.
Okay. Is it just because it's
and
easiest
look at
to
that,
get to?
And look at that.
Oh.
No.
Look at that mix-in.
All right. So if you're on the YouTube stream, you could get a look at that. If you're not, what I'm seeing here looks like there's some chocolate, there's some vanilla, and there is some serious cookie. I mean, we have got chunks of cookie here. Wow. Do we have a spoon? Can I have a spoon? Can I try? I'm going to try some of this. Okay. We've got. What do you? So it sounds like for you two, and this is a place where you are both on the same page. The like serious mix-in is like that's the most important.
It's It's like Dave Portnoy when he scores a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
The firm undercarriage. It's the mix-ins.
I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
You can't have a high-scoring ice cream without good mix-ins.
It's true.
Yo. That is pretty incredible.
Next level, right?
Yeah, that is really good.
Yep.
I mean, and you're right about the mix-ins there. There is a bunch of different. I'm getting zapped with like a bunch of different kinds of cookies. Cookie Chaos is a good term for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're listening to Curiosity Desk. We're with Elijah and Kendra Richards. So what's the plans for the summer? How many places are we going to hit in the next couple of weeks? Is this the time when, or is this your busy season, shall we say?
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, we've been going to 2 a week. So I don't know, there's how many weeks of summer? 10? So at least 20 more stops.
Yeah.
At minimum.
Yep.
All right, we've got about a minute left. We're going to try to sneak real quick one more call in from Cohasset. JP, real quick, what do you got on ice cream for us?
Sure. Thanks for taking my call. I strongly recommend a chain. They just opened their first location in the Seaport called Salt and Straw.
Salt and Straw. Tell us real quick, why Salt and Straw of all the places they can go?
Yeah, just creative in terms of their flavors, not overly sweet. Their signature ice cream is an olive oil, using a grassy green olive oil. So it has a nice
olive oil. All right, JP, I'm going to have to cut you off. Unfortunately, you leave it there, but that's a great recommendation. Snuck it in under the clock. We've been speaking with Elijah and Kendra Richards from New England Diaries. Thank you so much for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Yeah, thank
you. Check them out on TikTok, and thanks to everybody who called and texted. Up next, we take a trip to a local wildlife sanctuary at what they call the most exciting time of the year for bird lovers, the nexus of migration and mating season. Steamy. It's the Curiosity Desk on GBH. Stay with us.
The drought-shrunken Colorado River has left western states like California facing a looming water crisis. But in San Diego, there is enough excess drinking water to sell to nearby states. The secret? Desalination.
What we're looking to do is really show that there's an opportunity to manage the system in a new way.
I'm Elsa Chang. Hear that story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Maine Maritime Museum. Their new exhibit, Resounding, highlights the resilience and traditions of Maine's Indigenous and Black maritime communities, featuring both historic artifacts and contemporary art. MaineMaritimeMuseum.org. And the University of Rhode Island's College of Business, with an online Master's of Science in Supply Chain Management, designed to prepare students to develop resilient and flexible supply chain strategies. URI.edu/MS Supply Chain.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, every Floridian grandparent knows late spring is the time to travel back north to New England, and real snowbirds know this too. Every spring, millions of our winged neighbors flock from their southern homes up to northern breeding grounds. One night, just a few weeks ago, almost 400 million birds were making their way through the skies above us. We wanted to know more about this annual migration here in Massachusetts, and we also wanted to know some fun avian facts for good measure. So we ventured 20 miles west of Boston to Mass Audubon's Broadmoor Wildlife Sanctuary in Natick and met up with John Herbert, Director of Bird Conservation, and he's also a bird fanatic.
This is Broadmoor Wildlife Sanctuary. near Natick, Massachusetts. One of Mass Audubon's great wildlife sanctuary, Potter Ranch Sanctuary Network throughout the state. So we have a forested habitat, and there's the Charles River nearby, and we have some nice wetland ponds, and also some scrubby habitat. So a nice variety of good habitat for birds. So right now it's probably our most exciting and busy time of the year. We're going through migration, the migratory period, and now we're entering the breeding period of Massachusetts birds.
Let's walk a bit.
You know what? Why don't we can just walk through? It's still open. And there's Jonathan. He's part of our sanctuary staff.
Give me the spiel.
So this is a sanctuary that's all about the flow of water. There's 2,000 acres of watershed that kind of flow into the brook, and the brook kind of flows throughout to the Charles River.
Do you have a favorite bird?
My favorite bird is the common yellow-throat warbler, and it's a warbler that nests right out front of the nature center here, and it's known for like a Wichita, Wichita, Wichita call.
Is that your best impression?
Yes.
Come on, put your heart into it.
Okay, Wichita, Wichita, Wichita. And they're really cool because they like to hang out like low in shrubs, so you can often get a good look at them, whereas a lot of warblers like to hang out really high up in trees, which make it really hard to find.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right, let's unpack a little what you were talking about. So, migration time. Broadly speaking, I guess people, I guess the average person understands that birds migrate. Some birds migrate, they come and go. What is the migration? Who's migrating here?
A lot of the birds are migrating. Many of these, this time of year, mid-May, mid to late May, it's the most exciting time because the birds from the tropics are neotropical migratory birds. So these are birds that spend their winter in the Caribbean, Central and South America. And they make their long journeys up to Massachusetts if they're breeding or just stopping through. And that's what's really exciting. Dozens of birds are doing that right now.
What are some of those birds?
Great crested flycatcher is one. I just heard it. Hopefully we'll hear it again. A pine warbler is one of those birds that will hang out up in the trees. We'll also hear yellow-billed cuckoo is one that people have been reporting here. I haven't heard it yet. So these are some, and they're just, smaller birds. And I think that's what's really cool about migration is how are they doing it?
We still don't 100% know?
The little nuances of migration, we still really need to understand of where birds are actually going, because these migratory birds, we love them here in Massachusetts, but they may only be here for 1 week if they're just passing through, or a couple months if they're nesting. Then most of the year they're down in the tropics. They're stopping because they're hungry. Migration, they're traveling thousands of kilometers, and these warblers are 20 grams, and they're flying across the hemisphere in a matter of a few days. So understanding where they need to be and what resources, so what food and habitat they need is really important for us to continue to understand and manage for and conserve for.
It seems to me that in a way that maybe isn't true of all types of research, that when it comes to birds, the citizen science piece is pretty huge, right? Which I think is really interesting. Like I think about the Christmas bird count, and you just mentioned citizen science. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of citizen science when it comes to the world of birds?
So it's super important. So locally, we were just looking at our nest boxes, and we have volunteers within our community that come and help monitor them, and we understand their productivity. So how well are they nesting, and that's done through a network throughout North America, and which is shared through a program called Nest Watch. And so we have a good understanding of how these birds that use our artificial nest boxes are breeding, so we can monitor their population trends. And you mentioned the Christmas bird count, and another one called the Breeding Bird Survey. So these are two really big long-term data sets run by volunteers in the community, and it's been going on for decades. And what's really critical about those is that we can't go back in time. So that gives us a snapshot of how birds populations have changed. And without that, we wouldn't understand that a lot of our birds are declining and have declined rapidly over the last four decades. So some recent studies have analyzed that data and found that a lot of our flycatchers, a lot of our grassland birds, a lot of our songbirds that go down to the Central and South America have declined by 40, 50, 60, 70, some of these shorebirds up to 90%. So really rapid declines. In the conservation community, it's a call to action. We're losing a lot of birds.
Do we know why?
So birds are declining for a lot of reasons. Habitat loss is the main driving force of the decline of wildlife. So loss of habitat, where they breed, where they migrate, where they winter, and that's the biggest driver. So we're losing rainforests, so these birds have less places to go in the winter, less food in the winter. They have less places to stop during migration to eat, or they might have less habitat here in Massachusetts or wherever they breed. But there's also other things going on. We have on the coast, sea level rise we're losing coastal habitat, and our salt marsh habitat's declining and decreasing. Birds fly through windows. They collide with structures during migration. That's a major source of mortality for birds. Cats kill a lot of birds. House cats kill a ton of birds. And declining food. So if maybe there is still habitat here, but there's less of the native trees, the native shrubs in our yards. And so there's less insects, so less food around. And this is some of these things with migration, with conservation that we're still studying and understanding, where and trying to pinpoint these locations, and then from that knowledge, enact conservation measures. There's your male blackbird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost fluorescent. Those red.
The birds see in the ultraviolet wavelength. They can see a wider range of the spectrum of the color spectrum. So like a hummingbird, you ever see that glimmer you make? So a bird, it shines. So it's another thing so I mentioned collisions is a big issue. So hundreds of thousands of birds die each year colliding into buildings and windows. And it's not just skyscrapers, actually buildings 10 stories and below are main drivers of that. You can get stickers, and they're actually kind of clear to us, but these stickers are made that they reflect ultraviolet light, so it glows.
And the birds.
So the birds, because they can't see glass.
Why should somebody I think there's a certain part of the population, obviously that's gets into birds, and then there's another subsect of the population that is probably I like birds, but I don't think about them too much. And then there's probably another subsect of the population that is I do not care about birds. They don't mean anything to me. They don't matter to me. What do you say to that group?
Yeah, that's okay. You don't have to. But I think having an appreciation of nature and birds is healthy. You don't have to be a bird lover. You may not like to be outside for whatever reason. You don't have to be out, going out birding, making bird lists. You don't have to have bird feeders at your house. But I think just understanding that there's a whole world of nature outside of our cities, and nature. There's nature in our cities too. Yeah. And my great-grandfather was a coal miner in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure he didn't care about birds, but I certainly do.
Well, he cared about canaries.
I think if people just look out the window, and you don't have to understand their behavior, just oh wow, look at these birds, and why are they calling? Just maybe adding that to your day and
be curious.
I think it's it's a healthy thing to be curious in life. It doesn't have to start or stop with birds and nature, but putting that into your repertoire of curiosity, I think is a good thing for everyone.
I feel like birds are exactly the kind of thing that if they went away, people would be you know what I miss? Oh yeah. Birds.
Yeah. And it's, we have that human connection to nature, but they're also, they provide ecosystem services. They eat a lot of insects, vultures eat dead animals, and owls, raptors eat mice and other rodents that are pests. So without these birds, just like without our insects, our way of life can change and will change. So, and that's why I think it's a good reason to keep them around. And I also view, birds are a good gateway drug to nature because they're familiar, in my opinion. You may not want to go look at spiders or snakes may creep you out, but birds are familiar.
What's like the crown jewel for like birders? Like the sort of white whale, the like rarely seen but like coming through during a migration. Is there something like that? Is there a particular bird that is just like, man, if you get to see one of those, you have done it?
This time of year, the warblers are those really pretty songbirds, scarlet tanager, Baltimore oriole, all these different warblers that are only here, either they're passing through. So this is your 2-week window to maybe see some of these birds and their breeding plumage and singing. Right now it's those songbirds. Then on the coast, these shorebirds. If you like to be on the coast and like those coastal birds, our threatened red knot and all these different greater yellowlegs, ruddy turnstones. These birds that are just passing through, eating horseshoe crab eggs and all sorts of critters on the coast. So so there's anywhere in the state you have a good chance to get some good birds this time of year.
What is the bird that you haven't seen that is like top of your list?
I mean, for me, like I really want to see a cerulean warbler is one that I love to see. It's this little blue, pretty warbler that they do breed in a couple spots in Massachusetts. Sometimes I get like a little embarrassed, with my birding friends. Like, that's a nemesis bird that I've tried to see. I've tried to see it a few times. Like I said, I have little kids, so I don't go chase birds. But there's a few spots here in Massachusetts that I'd like to see a cerulean warbler. Get a good look at it. So that's my goal for this summer.
All right. Good luck. I hope it happens for you.
Yeah.
And that was my amble through Broadmoor Sanctuary with Mass Audubon's Director of Bird Conservation, John Herbert. We were talking about spring migration season and just in general, the joy of birds, which is not a bad thing to stop and consider every once in a while. Well, that about does it for us. For now, the Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio-Henelos, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna find all the worms and chew them up for us. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Special thanks, too, to Andrew Massawa and Bradley Lewis. We will be right back here in 23 short hours on 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, check out our podcast edition of the show. You can get that anywhere. Till next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending?